In a field of flowers before a grand castle, a young boy with blue hair kneels before a girl with long white hair. He gently places a crown of white daisies upon her head. Smiling warmly, the boy addresses the girl as Eglette, about to compliment her. He finishes his thought, telling the stunned Eglette that her white hair is beautiful. Their tender moment is shattered by an enraged woman in an elegant blue dress, demanding to know what they're doing. The woman sternly orders the boy Heron to follow her, leaving Eglette behind. The scene shifts to a dark, ominous night where Eglette stands alone before a tower, as furious voices accuse her of leaving when she was forbidden. Terrified and overwhelmed, Eglette frantically insists on her innocence. Kneeling in a grand hall, she formally addresses the enthroned king and the woman in blue as her father and stepmother. She desperately pleads for them to believe her mind flashing back to the happy memory of a young heron admiring her beautiful hair. The sweet memory is replaced by the cold, contemptuous gaze of an older heron. Now imprisoned behind bars, a tearful Eglette lets out a pained sob. A royal official reads her sentence: execution for the crime of attempting to curse the empress, who smirks victoriously behind her fan. Eglette's eyes widen in shock as she hears the word sacrifice. The official declares that summoning the saint to their world requires a sacred offering of precious blood. They offer her a twisted path to redemption, promising that the sacrifice will cleanse her sins and allow her to return to heaven. Her brother, Heron, now a knight, stands before her and points his sword at her heart. He condemns her very existence as evil, accusing her of plotting to murder his mother with a curse. Her world dissolves into a bloody darkness as she questions her right to exist, wondering if she is nothing but a disgrace. Held down on an altar, she hears the priest begin the ritual, summoning the saint with the offering of her royal blood. As her life fades, she has one last heartbreaking thought: who's going to save me? The scene abruptly shifts to a modern train station where panicked shouts reveal a woman has fallen onto the tracks. A cracked smartphone lies on the ground, its screen displaying a cryptic message. Now, tell us your name, the one who will save this world. A girl with long white hair stares at her reflection in confusion, wondering how she's here when she remembers falling onto train tracks. She examines her unfamiliar, ornate dress and her long, distinctive hair, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. Confused, she wonders if she's become Prince Eglette before a formal title card corrects her identity: Princess Eglette Archteryx. She recalls the plot of a popular game where the player defeats a demon king while getting close to handsome male characters. She remembers the original Princess Eglette from the game, a faceless character meant only for a tragic role. The game's lore unfolds. A divine revelation demanded a sacrifice to summon a saint, and Princess Eglette dutifully offered herself for her people. But this revelation was a cruel lie, manipulated by the wicked demon king. The princess was never meant to die. Ironically, the very ritual that sacrificed her also summoned a heroine from another world who ultimately defeated the demon king. The vivid and brutal memory of Eglette's execution flashes through her mind. Clutching her head in pain, she struggles to understand why she possesses this traumatic memory. She tries to laugh it off as just a dream from playing too many games, but her delusion is broken when a maid enters, wishing Lady Eglette a good morning. A few days later, the horrifying reality sets in as she cries in her bed, thinking, it's not a dream. She realizes she has been reincarnated as Princess Eglette, and the original princess's painful memories are now becoming her own. A shiver runs down her spine as she remembers dying once before, wondering if she has somehow traveled back in time. With sudden, wide-eyed determination, she decides on a course of action. She has to run away. But her escape plan hits a wall. She's trapped at the top of a guarded tower and has no magic to aid her. Overwhelmed by her hopeless situation, she collapses onto her bed in despair. She reflects on the official story that she's kept in the tower for her own protection, but knows it feels more like a prison. Looking at her reflection, she realizes that even if she managed to escape, her distinct white hair would make her easy to recapture. A key rule of this world is revealed. The darker one's hair color, the greater their magical power. If her memories are real, she wonders who could have framed the original Egglet, cycling through a list of powerful suspects. But there's one person she refuses to suspect: her brother, Prince Heron Arched Terex. She recalls his game persona as the strong, steadfast protagonist and admits that despite his terrible actions in her memory, she used to be his fan. Drifting off to sleep, she questions whether the game's plot point about the Demon King manipulating the divine revelation was actually true. She ponders the reclusive Demon King, who supposedly hates humanity, and questions if such a being truly wants to destroy the world. Lying in bed, Egglet remembers a bug from the game that allowed players to summon the Demon King. A brilliant idea strikes her. She can use that same bug to summon the Demon King and have him kidnap her. She thoughtfully considers her plan, deciding she must first prove her usefulness to the Demon King. It's a worthy gamble, she reasons. Persuading him to hire her is better than staying here to be killed. A list of necessary items for the ritual is displayed: a pearl, coral, a knife, a leaf, a mirror, and a bitten apple. As Egglet finishes drawing a complex magic circle, a voice from the shadows mockingly asks what she's doing. The speaker is revealed to be the Empress of the Terex Kingdom, Manhwa Arched Terex. Egglet stands and respectfully greets the woman as her stepmother. The Empress coolly questions her about missing items from the national treasury, suggesting a mouse is lurking about. With a smug glance, the Empress declares that she seems to have found the mouse's hideout right here. Egglet inwardly panics, realizing she's been caught by a very troublesome person. The narration reveals the Empress was a kind character in the game, but, in truth, has been bullying Egglet for a long time. While feigning an apology, Egglet endures her stepmother's insults about her supposed greed. The Empress holds out her hand, demanding Egglet return the item she stole. Egglet's eyes widen in alarm as she realizes the moon is already out, meaning her time is running short. With a strained smile, she warns her stepmother to be careful not to get hurt. She swiftly pulls back a curtain, revealing her preparations. The completed magic circle lies on the floor, adorned with the various ritual components. The Empress scoffs at the display, sarcastically offering to play along with her whims. Ignoring her, Egglet takes a decisive bite out of the red apple, activating the ritual. She clasps her hands as a brilliant pink light erupts from the magic circle, engulfing her. The powerful magic swirls around her as she stands at the center of the summoning. The Empress screams as the sheer force of the magic blasts her backward. Stunned and disoriented, she stares in disbelief, demanding to know what kind of magic this is. Pinned against a stone wall by an overwhelming magical pressure, she trembles in fear. In a dark, fractured void, a man with black hair and horns begins to stir. The Empress gasps in horror as the horned man emerges from a smoldering crater in the wall. Her mind races as she registers his jet black hair, large horns, and immense magical presence. With a jolt of terror, she realizes the impossible. He is the Demon King. The newly summoned Demon King looks down as Egglet's hands sparkle with residual magic. With her arms outstretched, Egglet boldly declares she was the one who summoned him and asks him to hire her. She gazes at him, her expression a mix of desperation and hope. Standing before the imposing Demon King, Egglet makes her plea again. "Please hire me!" Thinking she's captured his attention, she formally introduces herself as Princess Egglet Arched Terex of this kingdom. With her hand over her heart, she prepares to reveal the crucial information that will save them both. She warns the Demon King that if she dies, he will also die soon after, prompting his confused questioning. Egglet confidently reveals his true name, the Demon King, Raven. Demon King Raven is introduced with a title card, his shock evident as he wonders how a human could know his name. Egglet internally recalls game lore. His name was a secret, used only once in an ad, known only to his vassals. She urgently explains that she will soon be sacrificed to summon a saint from another world, whose purpose is to kill him. This revelation, once a simple game tagline, is now her terrifying reality. Raven looks down at her with a stoic expression, asking why she's telling him this. Amidst flashes of blood, Egglet desperately cries out that she doesn't want to die again. She explains her escape is futile, as her distinctive white hair makes her an outcast among humans. His eyes narrow in realization as he focuses on her white hair, a crucial detail clicking into place. Eglette asks if he's truly unaware of her reputation as the powerless princess of the royal family. Raven internally realizes the rumor about the Demon King manipulating the oracle was false. He decides he must protect this person who is more trustworthy than any human. He questions how she, being powerless, could use a magicless summoning technique and asks where she learned it. Suddenly, a blue-haired knight, Prince Heron, bursts into the room, demanding to know the source of the commotion. Heron stops dead in his tracks, staring in shock at the sight of his sister standing with the Demon King. Prince Heron rushes to his mother's side, urging the dazed Empress to get a hold of herself. Furious, the Empress demands to know where Eglette has gone. The Empress points accusingly at Eglette, claiming she summoned the Demon King to kill her. Staring in disbelief, Heron realizes the true nature of his sister's actions. Drawing his sword, he furiously questions if this is how a member of royalty should act, accusing her of attempted murder and working with the Demon King. Eglette calmly states that she had no intention of killing her stepmother. Heron screams at her to stop lying, revealing that her own maid told him she had been casting curses. While Heron continues his accusations, Demon King Raven observes the silly show and summons a blue, magical energy in his hand. He gently places his glowing hand on Eglette's neck, startling her with the magical touch. Heron stops mid-sentence, his face a mask of rage and confusion. Enraged, Heron declares he will arrest Eglette for attempted assassination and destroy the place along with the Demon King. Unfazed, Eglette looks to the Demon King and asks him to take her along with him. Raven muses on the interesting nature of a powerless princess from the Holy Kingdom of Light. With a confident smile, he agrees to her request and invites her to go with him. Heron watches in pure horror, screaming his sister's name. Raven carries Eglette away under the full moon as she bids her brother a quiet farewell. A lone Raven flies away from the tower as Heron desperately shouts Eglette's name into the night. Spreading his large black wings, Raven flies through the night sky with Eglette in his arms, announcing their arrival. Eglette marvels internally that she reached her destination so easily, a feat that would have taken great effort in the game. They land gracefully on a balcony where a man with glasses watches their approach. The man, introduced as the Demon King's confidant and a greater demon named Owl, asks where his king has been. Eglette looks on in confusion as Raven stands beside her. Raven introduces Eglette as the princess who summoned him to kill the Empress, causing her to panic and deny the accusation. With a deadpan expression, Raven admits to Owl that he was wrong. He explains to the baffled confidant that he doesn't know why he's here himself, only that he brought her because she asked him to hire her. With a sly grin, Raven cheekily announces that he just hired a body pillow for himself. Eglette and Owl stare in unison, utterly shocked by his declaration. The story's title is displayed against a purple background. In a lavish room, Eglette nervously accepts a cup of tea from Owl, thinking it tastes surprisingly normal. She sips her tea, admitting she expected all demon food and drink to be much weirder. She watches as Raven's gloved hand reaches for his own teacup. Raven takes a sip of his tea and casually informs Owl that he's hired Eglette as his body pillow, starting today. Owl demands an explanation for bringing a human into their home, but Raven simply reiterates that she's a princess of the Terex kingdom. Eglette listens, recalling that even the Grey Prince Heron confirmed she was his younger sister. Raven thoughtfully notes that he's never seen someone without any magic power before, finding the story of a hidden princess intriguing. A magical aura sparkles around Eglette as she sits quietly. She turns to the side, insisting that she didn't try to kill her stepmother, and was framed. Raven leans forward with a smirk, asking if she, a human, cares more about her own life than defeating the Demon King. A dark, glitching memory flashes of a woman running in fear. The memory shifts to a terrifying image of Eglette on the ground with a sword pointed at her. Blushing with fear, Eglette admits that the thought of dying again is terrifying. Her hands tremble in her lap as Raven quietly processes her words, finally understanding her desperation. Raven instructs Owl to assign her a maid, prompting his confidant to protest loudly, fearing she might be part of a human trap. Eaglet looks over, confused by his order. Raven smiles and clarifies his offer. He's hiring her as his body pillow. As Eaglet processes this, he explains the job is just to be a body pillow, unlike chores such as washing dishes. He offers her generous terms, 500 gold coins a month, 3 meals and naps. He adds that he'll even throw in Owl's homemade sweets, much to the confidant's shock. Overwhelmed by the offer, Eaglet's eyes turn into literal dollar signs as she realizes she can buy anything with that kind of money. Leaning on his hand with a satisfied smile, Raven declares that their deal is complete. Dressed in a simple blue nightgown, a nervous Eaglet stands before an ornate bedroom door. Inside, Raven sits on a grand canopied bed and beckons her to approach him. Eaglet stands hesitantly before him, startled as he looks up at her from the bed. Raven rises and gently pulls a surprised Eaglet towards him by her shoulders. Raven looks down at her with a serious, unreadable expression. Blushing furiously, Eaglet finally realizes the true, intimate meaning of being a body pillow. She finds herself on her hands and knees on the bed, looking up at the horned demon king. He pulls her into his arms from behind, demonstrating exactly what the job entails. As he rests his head against hers, a brilliant blue magical aura envelops them both. Surrounded by sparkling energy, a blushing Eaglet wonders what's happening to her. Raven holds her close, his expression peaceful as his hand rests gently on her side. They lie together in a shimmering haze of pink and blue magic, with Raven holding her protectively. Overwhelmed and blushing, Eaglet can only wonder what is going on. She suddenly realizes her body feels warm and a persistent pain is finally fading away. Raven sits up abruptly, realizing he relaxed too much, and worriedly asks if the now limp princess is feeling sick. Tears in her eyes, Eaglet stammers that she's fine, while Raven looks on with a hint of a blush. A blushing Raven covers his mouth, concluding that making her his body pillow was the right decision after all. He turns to her with a determined gaze. Lying on the bed, a flustered Eaglet listens as he tells her to keep her body relaxed. He places his hand on her chest, causing her to gasp and ask what he's doing. Raven notes internally that she's absorbing his magic faster, assuming it must be painful, and that he's just helping. Eaglet clutches his shirt, her body tense and her face flushed. With a slight blush, Raven subtly adjusts his shirt. As the sensation fades, a confused Eaglet asks if it stopped. Raven looks down at her with an intense gaze. He asks if she disliked it, admitting he finds humans hard to read. A shocked Eaglet jolts upright in bed, clutching the covers. Mortified, she realizes what just happened and panics internally. The shirtless Demon King lies peacefully beside her, seemingly asleep. Eaglet sits stiffly on the bed while Raven silently watches her. He asks if she's woken up, but she remains silent and avoids his gaze. Blushing, Eaglet explains her weird expression by admitting she just understood what body pillow meant, which he confirms. Raven smirks, clarifying he literally just wanted a body pillow and reminding her that she agreed to it. He casually replies that he was merely helping her, suggesting she could only complain if he had actually helped her. He explains that her body reacted to his magic and he simply took care of it, adding he deserves thanks. Eaglet is baffled. While getting dressed, Raven elaborates that she was absorbing his magic as heat and he prevented her from attacking him. He turns away, telling her to be quiet if she's going to complain, as he hates noise. Terrified, Eaglet wonders what kind of man he is and what he meant about her absorbing his magic. Resigned, she decides that enduring this is still a better fate than dying. Raven stands by the door, averting his gaze with a faint blush. Looking out a window, Eaglet reflects that a few days have passed since she arrived at the castle. Now in a pink dress, she sits alone, bored with her new routine of just eating and zoning out. She sighs, thinking about how incredibly bored she is. Blushing, she thinks about her nightly work, recalling the feeling of lying next to Raven. She still doesn't understand what he means by her absorbing his magic. She blushes as she remembers that he only ever calls her by name, Eglet, at night. Her thoughts are interrupted by a sudden knock-knock at the door. The door opens to reveal Owl, who politely excuses himself as he enters with a tea cart. A stern-looking demon butler with green horns and glasses announces that he has brought the princess her tea. A young woman with long white hair blushes as she sits at a table, thanking him for the tea and cookies. Despite her polite exterior, she panics internally, forcing a smile while thinking he clearly hates her. She recalls that in a game he was a character she had to fight before the Demon Lord and that she beat him up. Taking a bite of a cookie, she reflects on the awkwardness of the situation, having fought him more than the Demon Lord himself. Her thoughts are interrupted as she blushes, realizing the cookie is absolutely delicious. While still munching, she remembers she's in the demon's base and wonders what other demons might be in the castle. Now wearing a pink headscarf, she clenches her fist with a determined smile, ready to go exploring. The scene pans out to a grand, beautiful castle perched atop a green hill under a clear blue sky. She cautiously peeks through a pair of ornate double doors, spying on the demons within. Inside, a lavish dining hall is filled with various demons enjoying a loud and festive banquet. Shocked by the number of demons, she immediately considers casting an explosive spell to clear the entire room in one go. Her snooping is cut short when a demon with brown hair spots her and angrily demands to know what she's doing. The demon confronts her, demanding to know where she came from as she thinks, "Crap," realizing she's been caught. Clutching her arm, she lets out a pained OWW, seemingly trying to create a distraction. Now seated awkwardly at the table surrounded by demons, she nervously wonders if she's in trouble. Flanked by amused demons, she timidly answers, "Why, yes," to their unasked question. A purple-haired demoness tells the kid to go home for her own good, making the girl realize they mistake her for a child due to different growth rates. She smiles brightly and thanks them for their concern, but explains that the Demon Lord gave her a job. Her explanation is met with a wave of roaring laughter, as the demons find her claim unbelievably absurd. An older demon dismisses her story, while she quietly insists that she isn't lying. The purple-haired demoness leans in with a smirk, informing the girl that the Demon Lord doesn't sleep. The older demon elaborates, explaining that the Demon Lord's body is so full of magic that he has no need for sleep. A brief flashback shows the black-haired Demon Lord, Raven, sleeping soundly and peacefully. The girl's eyes swirl with confusion as she internally shouts, "No way!" certain that she saw him sleeping. The demons ignore her confusion and prepare to send her home, asking where she lives. A sudden silence falls as Raven appears, his expression stern and unreadable. The entire room panics, and the feasting demons immediately drop to their knees in fear, exclaiming his title. Raven strides forward and abruptly pulls the girl from her chair, startling her. As his cape billows behind him, the other demons cower, their faces pale with terror. Holding her protectively, Raven issues a cold warning. The human belongs to him, and no one is to lay a hand on her. The demons look on in utter shock, finally realizing she's a human, and that's why they couldn't sense her magic. The girl lets out a startled "Kya!" as she is suddenly tossed onto a plush sofa. Looking up at Raven, she protests that it's still broad daylight, confused by his actions. He leans over her, their faces just inches apart, and calmly announces, "Nap time." The intimate moment continues as he hovers over her on the sofa, repeating his intention for a nap. A view of the castle appears as her thought bubble protests his intentions in the middle of the day. Blushing furiously, she pushes against his chest with both hands, shouting, "No." She nervously clutches her dress, admitting that he's right but still visibly hesitant. Noticing her embarrassment, Raven points at her and offers a compromise, saying he'll settle for her lap. She cries out in shocked embarrassment at his forward request. Before she can argue, Raven has already settled down, resting his head peacefully in her lap as she sits stunned. Her eyes swirl in dizzy disbelief as she looks down at him, completely flabbergasted by the situation. He gazes up at her silently from his comfortable position, his expression serene. As he rests, she touches a strand of her own long hair, quietly observing its strange color up close. Raven holds a lock of her hair, thinking how each colorless strand combines to look like white or silver hair. Gazing into her eyes from her lap, he softly tells her that her hair is beautiful. He refutes her past belief that her hair was a curse, sincerely telling her again that he finds it beautiful. Raven asks the silver-haired girl what she thinks about his compliment. Touched by his words, tears begin to stream down her face. Confused by her sudden tears, Raven asks why she is crying. Overwhelmed with emotion, she sobs that she doesn't know why. Wiping her tears, she wonders why a demon is kinder than a human, thinking it defies everything she thought she knew. In a memory, a horned demon confirms that, generally, demons don't like humans. Raven chastises her for her prejudice, explaining he's warning her because she might get hurt. Still teary-eyed, she realizes he sounds genuinely worried about her. Looking up at her with sincerity, Raven confirms that he is worried. Her eyes widen in stunned silence at his declaration. With a rustle, Raven sits up on the sofa beside the startled girl. He extends a hand, offering to let her join him in the office if she's bored. Blushing furiously, she insists she was joking, terrified that she's making him hate her even more. A memory of Raven's gentle, smiling face appears in her mind. As they walk, she recalls the demon's claim that he doesn't sleep, and he clarifies that's not quite right. Raven explains it's not that he doesn't sleep, but that he can't due to his infinite magic power. He turns to her and adds that his sleeplessness was only a problem before she arrived. Confused by his meaning, she cautiously offers to be his lap pillow. Raven smiles warmly, gratefully accepting her offer. Sometime later, she's stunned to see he has actually fallen fast asleep in her lap. She theorizes that his immense magic might cause insomnia, realizing its hidden lore the game never revealed. She gazes down at his peaceful, sleeping face. Gently stroking his hair, she marvels at its obsidian beauty. She runs her fingers through his thick black hair. A strange tingling in her fingertips makes her blush, reminding her of how she feels at night. Pondering her reaction, she wonders why she gets that feeling only when he holds her in bed. With a soft smile, she thinks she wouldn't mind this at all if things could always stay this way. The scene shifts to a town where people lie defeated on the ground as someone murmurs in shock. A demoness named Puffin stands over the fallen humans, mocking their foolishness for defying her. Blushing, Puffin admits she already misses the Demon King and wants to return to him. With a devious smile, she wonders if the Demon King will praise her for killing all the humans. Back in the castle, the girl and Raven sleep soundly. Raven sleeps peacefully, his face calm in the quiet of the night. The two are shown sleeping together, held in a gentle embrace. A new chapter in their story begins. Morning light streams into the grand bedroom, illuminating the new day. She stretches with a big yawn, exclaiming how well she slept. Raven lies watching her, remaining silent. Getting out of bed, she begins to wonder about breakfast. Kya, she lets out a startled scream as she's suddenly pulled backward. Panicked, she shakes him and shouts that Lord Puffin has returned to the castle. He jolts upright, now awake and alert, startling her with his sudden movement. She stares at him with a look of confused concern. A demoness with black pigtails bursts into the room, shouting for her lord. Puffin joyfully announces her return to her beloved Demon King. She looks on, with an expression of smug adoration. Puffin proudly reports that she has successfully repelled the reckless humans who dared trespass. Blushing, Puffin reports that in addition to chasing stragglers, they also drove off a nearby human army. Puffin bows low on the bed before the Demon King, Raven, and the silver-haired girl. The silver-haired girl watches the scene unfold with a shy, slightly flustered expression. Puffin aggressively confronts the silver-haired girl, demanding to know who she is, while the girl timidly asks the same question. Puffin strikes a confident pose, introducing herself as a high-born noble and a member of the Demon Army's Special Task Force. The silver-haired girl is stunned, internally repeating the words, "Special Task Force of the Demon Army." As a chibi Puffin looks on smugly, the girl thinks to herself that she's never heard of it. Puffin clings to Raven, jealously accusing him of getting another maid. But he ignores her and asks his aide, Owl, for a report. Huh. With a smug grin, Puffin tightens her grip on Raven's arm. The silver-haired girl sighs in resignation, thinking that she's just a body pillow after all. With her head down, she turns and walks out of the room. As she walks down the hall, two demon maids whisper to each other while watching her. She continues down the corridor, the two maids still observing her with curious expressions. She stops in the empty hallway, a pensive and lonely look on her face. Remembering when Raven declared her as his, she realizes that's why everyone in the castle now keeps their distance. Wandering alone, she wishes someone would talk to her and then stops as a noise catches her attention. Peeking through a window, she sees two demons sparring with swords and identifies it as training. A light bulb flashes over her head as she gets an idea, exclaiming, "That's it!" She cautiously approaches the two sparring demons to get their attention. With her hair tied back and a sword in hand, she looks determined and ready. She enthusiastically asks the two surprised demons if she can please join their training. She resolves to build up her stamina and learn self-defense before she eventually has to leave the castle. A crowd of demons gathers, whispering about the human and what she's trying to do. Puffin appears in the crowd, looking on with suspicion as she wonders why a human is there. As she faces her opponent, she thinks that although she maxed out her stats in the game, it's her first time holding a real sword. Gulp. She admits to herself that it's scary but strengthens her resolve to go through with it. The demon soldier raises his sword and begins his attack. Her eye widens in surprise as she senses something unusual, wondering what's happening. She's shocked by how light her body suddenly feels. Thud. A pair of ornate doors are slammed shut. Bam! A demon bursts into the office, urgently shouting to the Demon King that something terrible is happening with the human. Raven's eye widens in alarm upon hearing the news. Back at the training ground, her opponent decides to go easy on her since she's the Demon King's guest. Clang. The demon is stunned as she easily blocks his sword strike. Puffin and the other watching demons are left speechless by the unexpected display of skill. Lying on the ground, the defeated demon soldier can't believe she took him out in an instant. From the crowd, another demon expresses his shock, asking what in the world that human is. She realizes her body is moving instinctively, effortlessly seeing and dodging every one of her opponent's moves. Looking down at her hand, she begins to suspect a profound truth about herself. A memory surfaces. She recalls that in the game Egreeth, humans had no magic, so she never realized her own potential. Whoosh! A new power seems to flow through her as she stands with her sword. Puffin, flanked by her attendants, marches up and yells to get the silver-haired girl's attention. An angry Puffin gets in her face, demanding to know why she isn't recognized, while the girl nervously apologizes. Puffin points her sword at the girl and challenges her to a fight, stating that a human getting cozy with the Demon King is unacceptable. With a sinister smile, Puffin reveals a glowing dagger and vows to kill the magicless human in an instant. The silver-haired girl agrees to the duel, thinking that Puffin might be strong if she's the Demon King's lover. Puffin poses confidently with her sword, ready to begin their battle. The girl holds her own sword, feeling she can win but worrying about the trouble she'd be in if she hurt the Demon King's girlfriend. With a powerful cry, Puffin leaps into the air and launches her attack. The silver-haired girl calmly raises her sword in a defensive stance, ready to meet the charge. With a surprising show of skill, Eglet expertly disarms a horned demon girl during a sword fight. The disarmed sword clatters to the ground as a crowd of demons looks on in surprise. Stunned and disoriented, the pigtail-wearing demon girl wonders what just happened. Eglet smiles gently, asking if her opponent is hurt and reassuring her that she avoided hitting her hand. The demon girl erupts in fury, accusing Eglet of using magic and trickery to win the duel. Other demons in the crowd murmur among themselves, speculating that Eglet must have powerful magic. The commotion is interrupted as Raven arrives, demanding to know what is going on. The demon girl's anger instantly vanishes, replaced by starstruck excitement as she cries out to the Demon King. She rushes to Raven's side, eager to complain about how the cowardly human defeated her. Raven confronts a shocked Eglet, revealing he heard a report that she was trying to wipe out his army, which she hastily denies. Before she can explain further, Raven swiftly sweeps her up into his arms, leaving her speechless. As he carries her away, Eglette protests while Raven tells her to be quiet. Nearby, Owl simply sighs at the scene. The pigtail demon girl watches them leave, blushing and utterly bewildered by the human's behavior. Owl, ever the professional, adjusts his glasses and asks for a full report on the incident. Raven walks off with a protesting Eglette in his arms. He gently sets her down, and she looks up at him, a little nervous. Confused, Eglette asks if the girl from before, Puffin, is his girlfriend. Raven dismisses the idea, telling a blushing Eglette that Puffin is merely a subordinate. Annoyed, he adjusts his collar and mutters that he's never even touched a maid. Eglette notices his expression and asks if he's sleepy, and he admits he was woken up by the commotion. She lets out a soft gasp of surprise. Raven leans over her with a gentle, blushing gaze and softly speaks her name. He pulls her into a warm embrace from behind. Her eyes flutter open, face flushed in the quiet, intimate moment. They lie together peacefully, Raven holding her close in his arms. Cuddled against a sleeping Raven, Eglette reminds herself not to get too attached, despite the comfortable moment. The scene transitions to a beautiful sunny day at the Grand Castle. Now dressed in a purple gown, Eglette sits alone, bored and thinking she has nothing to do. She glances over at Raven, who is busy at his desk, assuming he doesn't have time for her. Without looking up from his work, he simply tells her to do as she likes. Walking through the castle, Eglette overhears demons whispering about the human who beat someone up, and she worries she won't be welcome at training anymore. Suddenly, a child's cry of, "Daddy!" cuts through the air. She turns to see a man losing control of a cart stacked high with crates, right next to a small demon boy. In a flash, Eglette lunges forward, shielding the boy with her own body as the crates come crashing down. The boy's father sighs in relief, thanking Eglette as his son runs to him. Holding his son, the grateful father thanks her again for her quick thinking. A flustered Eglette insists it was nothing, claiming her body moved on its own. As she turns away, she grows anxious, thinking that if she keeps meddling, it will happen again. A dark, painful memory surfaces of a woman falling after being asked, "You like me, don't you?" Eglette clutches her head, realizing her past kindness was misinterpreted as love, leading to a tragic outcome when she denied it. Pushing the memory aside, she checks on the little boy, who says he's fine but worries his dad hurt his hand. The boy then proudly announces that his daddy is the castle's cook. Noticing the man's injury, Eglette considers asking Owl for help, but resolves to handle it herself. A blush creeps onto her face as she steals her resolve. Later, she's called to a room where Owl addresses her as Princess. Inside, Raven questions her recent, regular trips out of her room, suspicious that they aren't just walks. Eglette explains she has been helping in the dining hall with Owl's permission since one of the cooks was injured. Owl thoughtfully considers her explanation before deeming it acceptable. Thump! Having made up his mind, Raven announces he is leaving and pushes back from his desk. He strides with purpose down a long, ornate castle hallway. The scene shifts to the castle's grand dining hall, where demons are enjoying their meal. Meanwhile, Eglette is all smiles as she happily helps out in the bustling kitchen. From behind a pillar, Raven eavesdrops as demons discuss how the human is actually very kind for helping an injured cook. His intimidating presence suddenly revealed, Raven startles the gossiping demons, who cry out to the Demon King in shock. He narrows his eyes, inwardly questioning their words. That human is kind? The terrified demons frantically insist that she is incredibly kind and never ignores anyone in trouble. Back at his desk, Raven muses over the idea of her being kind, concluding it's only to be expected from someone he brought to the castle. Later, Raven calls out to the princess as she sips her tea, and she looks up to answer. He declares that he's in trouble because he can't get any work done, but when she offers to get Owl, he waves it off. Smiling brightly, Eglette decides to go help in the dining hall instead. A slight blush appears on Raven's face as he thinks to himself that she's never treated him so kindly. In the kitchen, Eglette hums to herself while methodically slicing a carrot. She puzzles over the Demon King's strange behavior these past few days. From dropping things to whining about getting up. Peeking out of the kitchen, she wonders who has arrived this time. She finds Raven standing right before her, staring down with a serious expression. He leans in close, catching her completely off guard by asking why she is always so cold to him. Towering over the stunned girl, he repeats his question, demanding to know why she treats him with such coldness. Eglette is left utterly shocked and flustered by his unexpected accusation. She quickly grabs his arm and pulls him aside, telling him to come with her for a moment. Confronting him, Eglette asks what he meant, and he simply repeats that she always treats him coldly. Her only response is a completely baffled, "Huh? Huh?" He explains that she rushes to help others in trouble but never does anything for him when he needs it. With a hurt look, he presses her for an answer, asking why she treats him differently. Eglette quietly realizes he's simply complaining that she's kinder to the other demons than to him. Blushing furiously, she thinks to herself that he always gets flustered during their intimate moments anyway. Raven stands silent with his arms crossed, an unreadable expression on his face. A loud cry of "Wah!" suddenly pierces the air, interrupting their tense conversation. They turn to see a small demon girl in a green dress sobbing in the middle of the hallway. Without hesitation, Eglette rushes toward the crying child, with Raven following just behind. Eglette kneels to comfort the girl, who explains through her tears that her doll fell from an upper room to outside the castle. Thinking outside, Eglette realizes with a jolt that she's never actually been outside the castle walls before. She turns to Raven and asks for permission to take the girl outside to find her doll. After a brief pause, Raven gives his consent with a single word, "Fine." The scene changes to the formidable exterior of the castle, with guards posted at the main entrance. The two demon guards stand stoically at their posts. The guards snap to attention and salute as Lord Demon King emerges, followed closely by Eglette and the little girl. The guards anxiously ask if there is a security issue, but Raven calmly tells them their work is appreciated. Eglette gently asks the little girl where the doll fell, and the child points them in the right direction. The girl indicates a massive, dense patch of glowing purple thorns, saying, "It fell in there." Turning to a guard, Raven explains that the girl apparently dropped her doll. They spot a teddy bear tangled deep within the thorns, and Eglette confidently states she can reach it. "Ah, no, please don't." The guards immediately shout in alarm, stopping her. They explain the crystal thorns are a dangerous defense, as they are extremely sharp and shatter into even deadlier shards, prompting Eglette to ask if there is any safe way to get the doll. A frantic owl rushes onto the scene, scolding his lord for going outside without informing anyone first. Owl then asks the guards what they are doing, and one explains that a doll is stuck in the crystal thorns. Assessing the situation, Owl notes how difficult it will be to retrieve the toy and orders a guard to find a tool to hook it out. As Owl scolds the guards for abandoning their posts, a gloved hand reaches for a tangled mass of glowing thorns. Raven ignores the danger and plunges his arm into the thorny magic. Bam! Owl, Puffin, and the silver-haired girl watch in horror as Owl shouts for his lord. Ignoring his bleeding arm, Raven calmly pulls a small teddy bear from the thorns. Owl urges him to remove the thorns, explaining that the teddy bear belongs to Puffin. The silver-haired girl looks on, stunned into silence by his reckless act. Rushing to his side, she cries out in alarm, pointing to his bleeding arm. Raven turns to look at her, his expression unreadable. Blushing with concern, she stares at him, her worry plain on her face. Nearby demon guards whisper in disbelief that the Demon King would allow himself to be injured like that. Owl remains silent, his expression stern as he watches the two of them. Later, as she tends to his arm, the shirtless Demon King tells her, "There's no need." She looks up, confused by his words. Examining his arm more closely, she is shocked to find there's no wound at all. He explains that his immense magic power causes any injury to heal instantly. Still blushing, she insists that he must have still felt pain and shouldn't have gotten hurt. His expression softens as he looks away, a flicker of his true feelings showing. He reveals his magic is so vast that his body can barely contain it. A painful memory surfaces of his younger self, writhing in bed from the agony of his own power. He confesses that he has been tormented by constant, lonely pain his entire life, which no one could understand. Looking at her tenderly, he says everything changed when she appeared. He speaks her name for the first time, Eglet. He admits using her as a body pillow was just to absorb his magic, but his feelings have changed. Eglet is stunned, asking if she's actually helpful to him. He smiles, confessing he used to wish he could vanish, but now couldn't bear to lose her. She gently touches his cheek, asking if being close to her like this still hurts. Blushing, he admits it's strange, but he no longer feels the pain he had grown used to. Leaning in close, he confesses that the thought of losing her is what truly scares him now. He pulls her into a tight embrace, pleading with her to stay closer to him. Holding her gently, he whispers for her to stay by his side. In an intimate moment, he repeats his heartfelt request for her to stay close. Sometime later, Eglet sits quietly, knitting a long brown scarf. Her thoughts drift to the Demon King. She reflects on his overwhelming power and her ability to absorb it, realizing there's more to their connection than just being his pillow. The Demon King appears, handing back the ball of yarn she dropped, telling her it fell. She accepts it with a shy thank you, a blush on her cheeks. They sit together on the couch, she knitting while he rests beside her with his eyes closed. He gently leans his head against her shoulder, seeking comfort. Eglet reflects on how considerate he's been, even getting her a knitting set to help her pass the time. Sitting with Owl, Eglet feels an awkward tension in the air. She nervously asks if the commander he mentioned is Puffin, but Owl curtly denies it. Eglet sits alone, sadly wishing that humans and demons could coexist peacefully. She learns a terrible secret. The previous Demon King was killed by humans. A bloody flashback reveals how humans betrayed the former king during peace talks and massacred the demons in the castle. Is that true? Eglet asks in horrified disbelief. The scene shifts to a beautiful human castle surrounded by a lush forest. Owl reveals the kingdom responsible for the slaughter was the Terex Kingdom, Eglet's own birthplace. He explains the current Demon King's mother escaped the massacre while pregnant and died giving birth to him. Born from tragedy, the Demon King inherited both the curse and the hope of his people, becoming the strongest in history. Back in his office, the Demon King explains to Owl that while Eglet has no magic, her ability to absorb his power eases his pain. Owl reflects that, while hair color indicates magic, a human with zero magic has never been known to exist. He asks Eglet if her hair color is real, and she nervously stammers in response. In a flashback, he recalls her skilled swordsmanship, wondering where a princess could have learned to fight so well. The Demon King, arms crossed, agrees that he also wants to know the answer to that question. Flustered, Eglet wonders what to say, thinking they would never believe her if she admitted her skills came from a game. She reflects on her dual identity as Yukiko and Eglet, her two sets of memories coexisting without conflict, even the memory of being sacrificed. With a hand over her heart, she reveals that she has died once before and expects to die again soon. A bloody memory shows her bound and sacrificed for a forgotten sin, her final act being to summon a hero, making her wonder if she's in a time loop. She realizes the game character Colette always dies before the story begins, and now wonders if, in this life, she can use her sword to change her fate. The Demon King asks if the sword is the only thing she can use, and she admits that while she hasn't tried anything else, she should be able to fight. When Owl asks about her magic, she explains she has none, despite understanding the theory behind it. Owl condescendingly remarks that it's because she lacks magic. The Demon King looks pointedly at Owl, asking his trusted aide if he understands the situation now. Owl flinches, taken aback by his lord's reprimand. As Owl silently walks away, Eglet watches from the couch while the Demon King remains at his desk. Eglet looks up with concern. a wordless sound of tapping feet indicating she's about to follow him. She stands and calls out, asking Sir Owl to wait a moment. He tells her to just call him Owl, but she becomes flustered, sighing that his instruction wasn't what she meant. Bowing respectfully, Eglette acknowledges that her words may not mean much to him. She looks up earnestly, promising she won't hurt them, and pleading with him to believe her. A demon guard bursts in, shouting for Sir Owl with urgent news of a child kidnapped by humans. With a sharp sound, Owl turns and declares that he will go instead. A hiring notice is displayed, featuring various roles listed above an illustration of a dark-haired man and a red-eyed girl. Eglette stands alone in a vast hall, horrified by the thought of a demon child being captured by humans. Standing beside a concerned Eglette, Owl adjusts his glasses and reiterates his decision to go. The story's title is presented in elegant, stylized Japanese characters. Eglette clasps her hands worriedly, asking what has happened. A bloody flashback shows a demon mother holding her child as text explains that humans launched a surprise attack, slaughtering demons without mercy. The Demon King is depicted as a menacing figure, despised by all and aiming to bring an end to the world itself. In a tender memory, the Demon King recalls wishing he could just disappear, catching Eglette by surprise. Eglette stands with a look of deep concern, her hand placed over her heart. The Demon King smirks, reflecting on how he has seen countless routes where Eglette dies as a sacrifice but has now changed her fate completely. Puffin appears suddenly, yelling, "Hey, human!" at a startled Eglette. Eglette is reduced to a chibi form in her surprise, crying out Puffin's name as the angry little demon appears before her. Puffin clears her throat and asks if Lord Owl has left, to which Eglette timidly confirms. Puffin collapses, dramatically, distraught that Owl has gone to face the human soldiers all by himself. She laments that while Owl is powerful with magic, he is not skilled with a sword, and decides she must report this to the Demon King. She suddenly remembers Eglette is there and points at her with a sharp gasp. Puffin gets in Eglette's face, asking if her sword skills are superior and theorizing that humans might hesitate to fight another human. Smirking slyly, Puffin recalls Owl's suspicion that Eglette is a spy and challenges her to reveal her true self so she can be eliminated. Eglette firmly states that, if she can help, she will go, and asks Puffin to lead the way. In a lavish room, a nobleman sips wine, remarking on his good luck. A small, frightened demon child is trapped in a birdcage, as the nobleman thinks of using him as bait to capture more demons. The nobleman sits at a table across from another man, with the caged demon child placed beside them. Taking another sip of wine, the nobleman smiles cruelly, boasting that they can sell the captured demons at a high price. His wine glass suddenly shatters in his hand, a look of shock on his face. Owl leaps through the broken window, grabbing the cage containing the demon child. He lands gracefully on the street below, now surrounded by startled human guards. Holding the child's cage protectively, Owl realizes with alarm that a magic seal has been activated. Surrounded by hostile guards, Owl realizes he's completely outnumbered. He turns in surprise, letting out a confused, "Huh." Suddenly, Eglette appears and lands directly in his arms. "Princess?" Owl shouts in shock, wondering if she's been hiding magical abilities this entire time. Eglette explains that Puffin brought her, saying he needed help. Realizing who's responsible, Owl grits his teeth and calls Puffin a troublemaker. Standing with Eglette and the freed demon child, Owl senses no magic from her and contemplates if this is the perfect chance to eliminate her. Eglette looks up at him with concern, asking if he's in danger. As they face the phalanx of guards, Owl grimly confirms that's one way to put it. She asks why he isn't using magic, and he explains a seal is blocking him, making escape with the child nearly impossible. The guard's commander spots them, ordering his men to restrain the demons using magic but not to kill them. A soldier conjures a small fireball in his hand. The fireball hurtles toward them, growing in size and intensity. Thump. Owl steps forward, raising a hand to intercept the fiery blast. Adjusting his glasses, Owl coolly states that while their magic is the same, he can use it in any situation. He tells Eglet to protect the child while he begins reversing the guard's magic. Eglet watches amazed as she realizes he can turn their enemy's power against them. Straining against the force, Owl realizes there are too many opponents and their combined magic is draining his energy. The guards begin channeling their power together, creating a massive combined fireball. Owl realizes they're preparing a powerful spell and knows he won't be able to absorb it all. Resigned, he thinks he should have just escaped with them, but is glad he managed to protect them after all. But just as the spell is about to hit, Eglet steps in front of him, hands outstretched. She gasps, amazed at the sheer amount of power she's absorbing from the incoming spell. The guard's commander yells, "Attack!" as they unleash their magic. From a high window, the full force of the magical assault is seen descending upon them. Eglet's hands glow as she gathers the fiery energy. She stands as a protective shield, effortlessly containing the immense magical blast. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the Demon King sits at his desk, writing. He pauses, looking up with a thoughtful expression, wondering why Eglet hasn't returned yet. He recalls seeing her follow Owl and questions her motives for doing so. He reflects on his long history with Owl, who has been his overprotective right hand since childhood, but has never defied him. Though Owl was wary of Eglet, the Demon King trusts he wouldn't harm someone he cares about. He remembers her gentle concern, asking if his pain was gone. A faint blush appears on his face as he wonders where she is and what she could possibly be doing. Back on the battlefield, Eglet stands ready before Owl and the demon child. Owl frantically explains she wasn't supposed to absorb all the magic, but use it as fuel, while a panicked Eglet replies that it's too late. He quickly instructs her to hold the energy, aim it, and throw it back at them. Warning her that another attack is coming, Owl urges her to focus, and she affirms she understands. With instructions to absorb, hold, and return the magic, Eglet concentrates her power. She holds her hands out, channeling the immense energy she's gathered. The nobleman who orchestrated the kidnapping watches from a shattered window in disbelief. A massive explosion erupts in the courtyard, stunning both the nobleman and Eglet with its sheer power. Wah! Eglet excitedly hugs a stone-faced owl, cheering, "I did it!" Owl is shocked, marveling that she mastered such a difficult technique in such a short time. As she smiles brightly at him, he grimly thinks how dangerous she would be if she ever became their enemy. Eglet beams, thanking him and saying she's glad he doesn't have to handle everything alone anymore. Owl simply agrees while Eglet, energized, declares her intention to practice her new ability. The defeated guards groan in despair, realizing they never stood a chance against such unexpected power. Owl dismisses them as mere mercenaries, then adds with cold resolve that the man responsible for this must die. A man in a purple jacket struggles to crawl from beneath a massive pile of rubble. Eglet desperately grabs Owl's arm, pleading with him not to draw his sword. Trying to de-escalate the situation, she quietly points out that a small demon child is watching them. As the trapped man looks on in despair, Eglet smiles, announcing she has a great idea. Her idea revealed, the kidnapper is now bound and hanging from a tree for a crowd to see. A sign on his chest confesses that he kidnapped a child and deserves his punishment. The scene shifts to an overhead view of the grand, sprawling castle. An enraged Raven confronts Owl and Eglet, demanding to know why they left without his permission. Owl calmly explains that he didn't believe the situation was serious enough to bother the busy Demon King. Crackling with blue energy, Raven furiously demands that Owl repeat what he just said. Eglet rushes forward and grabs the enraged Demon King, crying out his name. She pulls him into a sudden, tight hug, leaving him momentarily stunned as her hair flies around them. Owl watches in astonishment, realizing Eglet has absorbed all of His Majesty's rampant magic. His rage quelled, Raven gently carries the now unconscious Eglet down the hall. Holding her close, Raven orders his subordinates to clear the area and not let anyone near his bedroom. In a flashback to the confrontation, Owl again states he didn't want to bother the king, triggering Raven's explosive rage. As his magic surges, Eglette realizes the overwhelming power is his and calls out his name in alarm. She reaches out desperately, calling for Raven once more amidst the blinding light. She successfully embraces him, and the chaotic blue energy begins to sparkle and calm around them. Blushing deeply, Eglette buries her face in his shoulder, holding on tightly. Raven stares down in utter shock, caught completely off guard by her hug. Carrying her away, he again orders everyone to stay away from him and to clear the area. He gently lays the sleeping Eglette on a large bed, looking down at her. Raven's jealousy flares as he remembers Owl leaving with Eglette, causing his magic to surge uncontrollably. He clutches his head, trying to get his overwhelming emotions and power under control. Waking up, Eglette reaches toward him with concern, gently asking if he's in pain. Her hand on his cheek makes him blush, his pained expression softening into surprise. Looking away shyly, Raven quietly admits that it hurts a little. They gaze at each other, blushing as he holds her hand to his cheek. As she moves to hug him, Igli senses that his magic is still overflowing. She embraces him tightly, absorbing the volatile energy swirling around him. She reflects on her plan, believing she could safely absorb his power with the right adjustment. She recalls that the Demon King's magic is so immense in both quantity and quality that it causes physical pain. The sheer power makes her blush, thinking how thick, heavy, and overwhelming it feels. Raven gazes down at her with a soft, affectionate smile, his cheeks still dusted with a blush. Later, Raven looks down with a serious yet gentle expression, his shirt now unbuttoned. He leans over her tenderly, his hand cradling her head as he softly calls her name. Flustered by his touch, she shyly confirms that Eglette is indeed her name. Lying beneath him, she looks up and calls his name back to him. He leans in closer, repeating her name with a soft, loving gaze. With a backdrop of sparkling magic, he gently kisses her. The kiss deepens as she wraps her arm around his neck. A flashback reveals a thought. This is the first time seeing the normally unreadable Demon King so furious. His magic continues to leak out, surrounding him in a soft blue aura as he looks down, flustered. He gives in, burying his face in her shoulder as she comforts him. Standing outside the closed bedroom doors, Owl worries that he can't let the king sleep forever. Inside, a shirtless Raven rests peacefully with his head in Eglette's lap as she strokes his hair. Peeking inside, Owl is left speechless and blushing at the intimate scene. In the castle corridors, a group of demons gossip about a rumor that Lord Owl has acknowledged a human, leaving them in shock. Peeking from behind a pillar, a distraught demon girl with red-tipped pigtails wonders how this could have happened. Elsewhere, Eglette knits peacefully, greeting an unseen audience. The scene reveals she's knitting while the Demon King, Raven, rests his head on her lap, absorbed in his paperwork. Looking flustered, Eglette thinks to herself not to ask how she ended up in this situation. Raven glances up from his work, his gaze meeting hers from his comfortable position on her lap. He closes his eyes, sighing contentedly as he relaxes against her. As her hands continue to knit, Eglette notices how soft his hair is and how large his horns are. She reflects that his behavior has changed since she stopped his magical outburst, though he was already acting strange before, remembering when he embraced her. She recalls Raven repeatedly asking her to stay with him and worries that she might have praised his music too much. With an awkward smile, she tells the resting Raven that the children will be here soon and that he should wake up. Just then, 2 young demon children burst into the room, excitedly asking Eglette to teach them knitting again. Eglette happily sits with the children on the floor, patiently teaching them how to knit. From his vantage point, Raven watches them, thinking it's good that she's staying inside more, but that her attitude remains unchanged. Eglette beams with genuine happiness as she spends time with the enthusiastic demon children. Raven recalls the moment she embraced him and called him by his name, Raven, noting she hasn't said it since. Suddenly sensing a change in his mood, Eglette looks up with concern, wondering what's wrong as the children cling to her. A dark, menacing aura surrounds Raven as he glares from his desk, startling the others. Eglette recognizes his foul mood, thinking to herself that it's happening again and has been occurring frequently. As the children look on worriedly, she suddenly wonders if the Demon King simply doesn't like kids. To her surprise, the little demon girl gets up and bravely runs toward the sulking Demon King at his desk. The girl stands before Raven's large desk and presents something to him. Blushing, the little girl apologetically offers him 2 small flowers, begging the Demon King not to hate them. She scurries back to Eglette's side, hiding her flushed face as Eglette and the little boy watch Raven's reaction. Raven gently holds the small, colorful flowers against one of his horns and declares them beautiful. He flashes a charming, fanged smile and adds that the flowers really suit him. Kneeling before the small child, Raven tells her the flowers aren't enough and playfully asks her to make more for him. Eglette and the little boy watch in stunned silence at this surprising turn of events. From the children's perspective, the mighty Demon King looks away with a deep, embarrassed blush on his face. Peeking over his desk, the blushing Raven wonders what to do as Eglette finds his sudden childishness incredibly cute. The little demon boy eagerly asks Eglette how to make the flowers, and she begins to show him. Click! Owl enters the room, pushing a tea cart, announcing that it's tea time. Owl instructs the children to return to their rooms and not to disturb the Demon King, much to their disappointment. Waving goodbye, the children promise to return for another lesson tomorrow as Eglette reflects on the peaceful moment. Thump. Eglette is startled as Raven suddenly sits down beside her on the floor. He eyes her knitting project curiously and asks what she's been working on for so long. She explains that she noticed his horns get caught on his sheets, so she knitted covers to protect them. Raven leans in close, blushing intensely as he excitedly asks if the gift is for him, and she shyly confirms it. He turns away, pondering with a deep blush on his face, while the blushing Eglette watches him. Owl announces that the tea is ready, as tiny, adorable versions of Raven and Eglette peek over the trolley in anticipation. Poofed! Owl does a spit take upon seeing the Demon King now wearing the knitted horn covers, which have been decorated with colorful flowers, while Eglette beams proudly. In a quiet forest, the demon girl with red-tipped pigtails sits on a rock, seemingly making a decision. A sly look crosses her face as she plots that if she can't hurt Eglette directly, she'll find another way. She cackles, deciding to make it look like the human died in an accident. A sack of coins is presented as payment, described as a salary for the month. Back in his study, Raven is interrupted by Eglette, who excitedly asks if she can go shopping at the local item shop. Raven begins to offer to buy anything she wants himself, seeing no need for her to go. With a radiant and determined expression, Eglette insists that she wants to go and shop by herself. Sighing, Raven relents and gives her permission to go, but sternly warns her not to go out alone. In the bustling Demon King Castle shop area, a thriving marketplace serves both soldiers and regular demons. Eglette's face beams with excitement as she takes in the sights of an actual item shop. Looking at jewelry, she reflects that she'd never visited before because she had no money to spend. Eager to browse, she happily considers what to buy, torn between weapons, armor, and magic items. As she walks, she thinks she has no chance to practice magic here, unaware that the demon girl with red-tipped pigtails is watching her. Peeking from behind a column, the demon girl wonders what the human is doing here instead of with the Demon King. To the spying girl's shock, Eglette effortlessly swings a massive greatsword, making her question if Eglette is truly human. Thump, convinced she must be eliminated, the determined demon girl runs off to enact her plan. Oblivious Eglette politely asks the shopkeeper if she can hold a small sword on display. Oof! The demon girl suddenly shoves Eglette from behind, then aggressively demands that she look at her. Eglette turns around, looking confused by the sudden confrontation. On display is a rare, cursed dagger imbued with the power to drain magic from humans and demons. Eglette's eyes sparkle with desire as she recognizes the dagger as a key material for weapon synthesis, declaring she must have it. Startled by her sudden interest, the demon girl urges her to wait. Holding the dagger with a radiant smile, Eglette excitedly asks the shopkeeper for the price as the demon girl watches, annoyed. Outraged by Eglette's audacity, The demon girl silently fumes, wondering who she thinks she is. As Egglet happily thanks the shopkeeper, the demon girl glares, internally vowing to absolutely kill her. Clutching her new dagger, Egglet muses that the curse is harmless to her, now needing only to find materials to synthesize it. She decides she'll need to go to the forest for materials, possibly from a Dragonian couple, when a shout interrupts her thoughts. Turning, she sees the angry demon girl and asks, "Puffin?" A light bulb flashes as Egglet realizes Puffin is a strong demon and excitedly asks her to go to the forest with her. Puffin sees this as the perfect opportunity, agreeing with a sinister smile as she thinks Egglet is walking right into her trap. While Egglet celebrates with a cheerful "Yay!" Puffin darkly promises that today will be the human's last day. A rope unfurls through the air, ready for a rescue. Egglet holds the rope, desperately calling for Puffin to hold on as she tries to pull her from a deep pit. Covered in mud at the bottom of the pit, Puffin clings to the rope, bewildered as to why her own trap backfired on her. After the rescue, Egglet asks if Puffin is all right, mentioning she was surprised when Puffin suddenly jumped in. Puffin forces a smile and lies, claiming she simply slipped because she wasn't careful. In a chibi flashback, it's revealed that Puffin tried to push Egglet, who sidestepped, causing Puffin to fall instead as she cries in frustration. Egglet expresses relief that the pit wasn't bottomless, while Puffin fumes, realizing her trap failed completely. Undeterred, Puffin grits her teeth and silently declares it's time for her next trap. As they walk, Egglet gracefully avoids grasping vines that immediately ensnare the clumsy Puffin behind her. Puffin struggles, yelling for Egglet to wait and wondering how she avoids everything, before a sudden grab stops her. Giant carnivorous plants snatch Puffin into the air, and a horrified Egglet cries out her name. Grrr! Egglet is now surrounded by menacing wolf-type magical beasts, as Puffin watches from a tree, certain this trap will work. To Puffin's disbelief, Egglet walks past the now docile wolves, leaving Puffin to wonder at her luck while vowing more traps are ahead. Egglet remarks that Puffin seems quite unlucky today, causing the flustered demon girl to insist she's fine. Gently wiping the mud from Puffin's face, Egglet tells her not to push herself and to rest for a moment. Touched but resolute, Puffin suddenly remembers her goal and asks Egglet if she was looking for apples. A glint of realization appears in Egglet's eye as she connects the apples to the castle shop. With sudden purpose, Egglet pulls the startled Puffin close to her side. Thump! A massive red dragon emerges before them, leaving Puffin utterly terrified and speechless. Egglet smiles brightly beside the shocked Puffin, announcing that she's found it. Puffin stares in disbelief, wondering if the terrifying dragon is what Egglet meant by apples. Egglet happily clarifies that since this is a red dragon's nest, the legendary dragon apple must be close by. A cute chibi illustration shows Egglet happily holding a heart-shaped apple. An item description identifies the dragon apple as a rare demonic fruit said to grow from a red dragon's breath. The text explains that the apple is incredibly difficult to harvest due to its proximity to dragon nests and quickly loses freshness. A stylized title card for the series is displayed. The mighty red dragon lets out a deafening roar. As the dragon lunges, Puffin trembles in absolute terror. Watching Egglet's calm demeanor, Puffin wonders why she would seek something so dangerous for a mere dragon apple. Puffin stares at Egglet's slight smile, internally questioning who this girl really is. A narration explains that in this world, there are humans, demons, and magical beasts. Further text clarifies that some magical beasts bond with demons or become familiars. The text states that dragons are a terrifying exception, deemed invincible due to their magic and unmatched fierceness, causing even Puffin to freeze in fear. Facing the beast, a determined Egglet smiles and declares that she can do it. She confidently runs forward to face the dragon. As Egglet casually walks past a terrified Puffin, the dragon looks on with a quizzical expression. Approaching the massive beast, Egglet dismisses it as a weird dragon, deciding she'll deal with it after she gets the apple. She recalls that the synthesis enchantment was imbued on her dagger at purchase, meaning she can use it the moment she harvests the material. Watching from a distance, a shocked Puffin wonders what on earth that girl is doing. Puffin wishes Egglet would get crushed, but then realizes that if she dies, escaping alone will be even harder. Spotting the scaly red fruit in the branches above, Egglet exclaims, "There it is!" The red dragon lets out a mighty roar right beside Egglet, who remains completely unfazed. As the dragon breathes a massive fireball, Puffin shoves Egglet to safety, shouting that it's dangerous. Puffin regrets her actions, thinking she's an idiot who should have run, but is interrupted by Egglet thanking her. Holding the dagger to the dragon apple, Egglet begins the synthesis process. Puffin looks on in dawning comprehension as she begins to understand Egglet's plan. Realization strikes Puffin as she exclaims, "Weapon synthesis," and understands this was Egglet's goal all along. With a swift motion, Egglet plunges her newly transformed dagger into the side of the red dragon. The dragon collapses as an item description reveals the apple dagger, a super rare weapon crafted from an ancient dagger, a dragon apple, and dragon's blood. Egglet proudly holds her new weapon, remarking that with an apple dagger, you can easily cheese a dragon, just like in the game. She recalls that since magical beasts like red dragons respawn, they were always great for grinding levels. Egglet muses that her body moved better than expected, and the dragon seemed slower than she remembered. Looking at her new dagger, she feels the fight was too easy and wishes it had been more of a challenge. Suddenly, Egglet and a horrified Puffin are surrounded by 3 more red dragons that have just appeared. While Puffin stares in terror, Egglet's eyes sparkle with excitement. Utterly bewildered by her reaction, Puffin asks Egglet why she is smiling. Egglet thinks this is a perfect chance to train and decides that if things get bad, she'll just escape using Puffin's teleportation magic. Filled with excitement, Egglet cheers. "Let's do our best, Puffin," as the demon girl looks on in utter despair. The scene shifts to a grand room where a black-haired demon man asks if they weren't supposed to be out shopping. Egglet explains she finished shopping, but what she truly wanted was in the forest, so she brought Puffin along with her. The man sternly calls out Puffin's name, causing the demon girl to flinch in fear. Egglet wonders what's keeping Puffin so busy, noting that she's usually stuck to the Demon King like glue. Suddenly, the Demon King pulls Egglet into a tight, surprising hug. Caught completely off guard, Egglet can only manage a confused, "Huh?" Held firmly in his arms, Egglet blushes deeply from the unexpected intimacy. Leaning in close, the Demon King commands her to take off her clothes now. A cute chibi illustration shows Egglet happily holding a large heart. With his face near her neck, the fanged Demon King whispers, "Wait, this is a bit?" A stylized title card for the series is displayed. As he holds her, the Demon King's expression grows serious as he states that he smells blood. Looking into her eyes, he realizes it's her blood and asks if she's injured. Egglet smiles sweetly, dismissing her injury as just a little scrape and nothing to worry about. The Demon King looks away with a sigh, stating that he doesn't trust a word she says. Now shirtless, he gently kisses her hand, murmuring that the injury is still there. Egglet reflects that his expressions are sweet, but reminds herself that this is an at-home game where the Demon King is not a love interest and she is not the protagonist. In a steamy bath, a flustered Egglet insists that her scrape doesn't hurt anymore. Embracing her from behind, the Demon King looks at her with sorrowful eyes and begs her not to go outside without telling him again. In the steamy bath, the Demon King holds Egglet close, asking if she understands as she lets out a soft moan. As he kisses her neck, the Demon King insists that she make him a promise. Flustered, Egglet agrees while thinking about his fingers moving beneath the water's surface. The Demon King smiles, satisfied that she has given her word. Submerged in the water, Egglet has a moment of shocked realization, thinking that his feelings don't give him the right to touch her. Leaning back thoughtfully, the Demon King remains silent for a moment. He reveals he received a report from Owl about her learning magic, and Egglet confirms Owl taught her how to reflect it. When he asks if she was hiding it, she explains she didn't think he'd want to know, and that Owl is quite forthcoming with her. He smiles gently, telling her that her ability to use magic makes no difference to him. With tears in her eyes, Eglette asks if that's because it doesn't matter for a body pillow. The Demon King reassures her warmly, stating that no matter what, she's still just herself. In a chibi-style aside, the Demon King worries his power was too strong, while Eglette wonders if that means she can't use hers. He explains that she instinctively absorbed the backlash of her own overwhelming power to protect the people of the castle from being vaporized. Blushing, he offers her all the magic she desires if she'll stay by his side, but she bluntly tells him she doesn't need it. Later in bed, Eglette suddenly recalls the battle, remembering that she wiped out the red dragons. In a cute illustration, she explains how she synthesized the rare apple dagger and tested it, as the Demon King recognizes the weapon's name. Looking troubled, she asks him if she did something terrible. The Demon King smiles slyly, suggesting they go together to check on those poor things. Dressed for an outing, Eglette confirms she is ready as the Demon King waits for her on the balcony. He surprises her by sweeping her up into his arms. A stylized title card for the series is shown. Cradled in his arms, Eglette looks concerned, remembering his plan to visit the dragon's nest. The Demon King repeats his desire to go see how the poor things are doing. Confused by his words, Eglette also notes that he even had Owl pack them a lunch for the trip. Holding her securely, the Demon King announces that they are about to land. They arrive in a dark forest, standing before the same tree where the dragon apple hangs. A sudden, horrified jolt hits Eglette as she realizes this is the exact spot where she wiped out the dragons. Just then, 3 massive red dragons emerge from the woods before them. While Eglette watches in terror, the Demon King calmly asks the beasts if their chief is present. The largest of the 3 red dragons stares down at the pair. Eglette is stunned that the dragon can talk, while the Demon King asks if it seeks revenge for the princess. The dragon, however, only asks who she is. The Demon King clarifies that she is the princess of the Terrix Holy Kingdom, prompting the dragon to ask for her name. Blushing nervously, the girl introduces herself as Eglette. The dragon thanks Eglette, identifying her as the daughter of the Toki princess of the White Heron. Utterly confused, Eglette questions the name Toki and asks why the dragon is thanking her. The Demon King explains that red dragons are high-class beasts, capable of speech, but are usually too proud to engage with others. A narration describes the red dragon life cycle. They burn upon death and are reborn from their own ashes, making them nearly immortal. The lead dragon explains that since no one had slain them in a long time, they had grown old. Eglette's actions allowed the entire clan to be reborn. Eglette has a flash of insight, realizing their age was the reason they were so slow in their previous fight. The Demon King smiles, asking if she understands now that what she did wasn't a sad thing at all. With a happy, blushing smile, Eglette agrees. The dragon offers Eglette 1 wish as thanks, and she eagerly asks him to spar with her for training. While the Demon King looks on in shock, the dragon agrees to her unusual request. With her apple dagger at the ready, Eglette confidently faces the 3 reborn dragons. She charges into battle as the Demon King shouts her name in alarm. The dragon observes that it's never seen him so excited, which the flustered Demon King quickly denies. The Demon King cautions the dragon not to hurt her, but their conversation is cut short by Eglette's sudden scream. The dragons sheepishly report to the Demon King that Eglette has accidentally slipped off a nearby cliff. Without hesitation, the Demon King leaps off the cliff after her. As she plummets, a panicked Eglette thinks she got too carried away and is about to say goodbye to her second life. Eglette squeezes her eyes shut, a deep blush spreading across her face as her heart thumps loudly. With a flash of his wings, the Demon King catches her, looking down at her in surprise as he holds her securely in his arms. Blushing furiously, the Demon King yells that she really is such a handful. Holding her close, he gently chides her, asking her to please try to be more careful. Looking up at him with wide, teary eyes, a blushing Eglette stammers out an apology. With a powerful beat of his wings, he lifts them into the air, leaving the 2 red dragons looking up from below. Standing together later, the Demon King holds a shyly smiling Eglette close. The scene shifts to a woman in a long dress walking through a dark, foreboding corridor. The woman, the Toki princess, glares down at a massive red dragon imprisoned in a cell, vowing that she will never forgive it. In a cute chibi illustration, Eglette sits happily, clutching a large, shiny red heart. Eglette and the Demon King enjoy a peaceful picnic, with her pouring tea as he watches her with a soft expression. Taking a bite of a sandwich, Eglette smiles blissfully at the delicious taste. The two sit side by side, happily munching on their sandwiches together. With a smudge of sauce on her cheek, Eglette licks her finger and exclaims how amazing and delicious the sauce is. The Demon King gently reaches over and wipes the sauce from her cheek with his thumb. He then brings his thumb to his own lips to taste the sauce, his expression thoughtful, as Eglette looks on in shock. Utterly flustered and blushing bright red, Eglette is stunned by his action, thinking that while the sandwich is good, this is too much. The Demon King looks at her coolly, simply asking what's wrong. Overwhelmed with embarrassment, Eglette can only continue to blush intensely. Still flustered, Eglette wonders if this is normal now, thinking he touched her so suddenly. The Demon King smirks, teasingly asking if it isn't a bit late for her to be surprised by that. Eglette concedes that he might be right, but thinks to herself that this has never happened before. She recalls seeing Puffin clinging to the Demon King while Owl looked on, remembering Puffin saying he claimed she wasn't his lover. Her thoughts troubled, Eglette thinks they seemed close, and asks the Demon King what kind of girl Puffin is. The Demon King looks over, surprised by her sudden question about Puffin. He calmly explains that Puffin is one of his royal subordinates, just like Owl. Eglette processes this, realizing Puffin has feelings for the Demon King. Leaning in close, the Demon King asks her why she keeps calling him by his title. He looks at her intently, pressing the point by asking if she knows his name. Blushing deeply, Eglette quietly speaks his name for the first time. Raven. Raven smiles warmly and confirms her name in return, making her blush even more. In a flashback, a younger man with brown hair speaks with a red dragon, which tells him to look after any humans he finds, despite the war. In the present, Eglette realizes that any humans capable of capturing a dragon must have come from her own Terex kingdom. Puffin, a young woman with red-tipped hair, walks through a courtyard in a dark cloak, her expression grim. In a memory, she watches a white-haired woman face down a dragon, thinking that this dangerous human could be a threat to the Demon King. Puffin grits her teeth in anger at the memory of someone getting so close to her Demon King. Her past flashes by. Though told the Demon King was terrifying, she remembers him looking lonely when he saved her from human captors. As a young, scarred girl, she vowed to become useful to him. Puffin recalls her struggle to become the youngest Lance Corporal and create a Black Ops unit, all to be of service to him. Back in the present, Puffin feels isolated and frustrated, believing even Lord Owl has been swayed by Eglette, leaving her in the dark. Elsewhere, people gossip about the mysterious white-haired girl, speculating she must be the human from the rumors. Nearby soldiers discuss the same girl, mentioning rumors that she tried to assassinate the queen and now has a bounty on her head. Puffin approaches the soldiers and demands they tell her everything about that story. The scene returns to the prison, where the Toki princess walks toward a cell with determined steps. Gazing at the moon, the Toki princess thinks Eglette must be dead, but vows she won't find peace until she sees the body herself. A guard rushes in to inform the Toki princess that someone has requested an audience with the prince. The guard reports that the visitor claims to have seen the white-haired human the prince is searching for. A sinister smile spreads across the Toki princess's face as she realizes Eglette is still alive. She dismisses the guard, saying she will handle it herself because the prince is busy. The Toki princess confronts a cloaked figure kneeling on the floor, asking if they are the one with information. Puffin recalls disguising herself to meet the queen, while in her current disguise as an old woman, she claims to be a traveling magician with uncertain information. The Toki princess holds her fan to her face, suspiciously asking the magician for a description. Lowering her fan, the Toki princess intensely demands to know everything, and the disguised Puffin agrees with a sinister smile. Puffin internally vows to do this for her king, as a memory of Raven and Eglette's peaceful picnic flashes by. The story pauses for a brief chapter break. At the Demon Lord's castle, two guards discuss the quiet human army, with the red-haired one showing disdain for them. The blue-haired guard asks his red-haired companion if he knows of the White Princess Eglette. The red-haired guard speculates that she could be a human princess, but the blue-haired guard scoffs at the idea. A flashback begins, with Eglette looking on with concern and asking someone if they are okay. She's speaking to the red-haired guard whose arm is injured, and she insists on treating his wound despite his protests. The memory shows Eglette gently tending to the red-haired guard's bandaged arm as they sit together. Back in the present, the blue-haired guard teases his friend, asking if that's when he fell for her, which the red-haired guard furiously denies. Elsewhere, Raven overhears a shocking rumor that a demon has fallen in love with the human princess Eglette. Raven sits at his desk in silent, deep thought. The two guards are shown again, confirming they are the source of the rumor about someone being in love with Eglette. Raven mulls over the words, wondering which demon could be in love with Eglette, as he didn't catch the name. He continues to ponder, questioning who could have possibly gotten so close to her. His mind flashes through images of Eglette's life in the castle, first showing her training with soldiers. Next, he pictures her cheerfully serving food to demon children in the cafeteria. He then remembers her happily knitting alongside demon children and their parents. Overwhelmed by how many people she's interacted with, a chibi Raven realizes there are far too many suspects. He thinks about Eglette's trusting and meddlesome nature, calling her naive to the ways of the world. Raven finds her difficult to understand, feeling she vanishes the moment he looks away and is always wandering off. He recalls her vulnerability, remembering her thoughts of being a powerless, hidden princess unlike someone else with magic. The memory of her soft voice calling his name, Raven, echoes in his mind. Lost in thought, Raven blushes deeply, clearly flustered by the memory of her. A sudden click of a door handle catches his attention as Eglette peeks in, noticing a noise. Finding a flustered chibi Raven at his desk, she asks him what's wrong. Eglette touches his forehead, worried his red face means he has a fever, and wondering if demons can even get sick. She smiles warmly, offering to take care of him, saying it's the least she can do even if she's not his hug pillow. Raven gently takes her hand and kisses it, telling her she doesn't have to do anything for him. He looks at her sincerely, telling her that simply staying by his side is enough, causing her to blush. Hearing a noise at the door, Raven announces he's coming as Eglette watches with concern. Raven turns to Owl with a serious expression, instructing Eglette to stay behind him. Watching from afar, the two guards conclude that the Demon Lord himself must be the one in love with the human. Left alone, Eglette sits anxiously, fearing the approaching human army will lead to a massive war. She looks on with a heavy heart, wishing she could stop the conflict, but knowing it isn't that simple. Turning around, Eglette is surprised to find Puffin standing in the doorway with a stern look. Eglette recognizes her and calls out her name, confused by her sudden appearance. Puffin forcefully grabs Eglette's arm as Eglette cries out her name in surprise. With a violent shove, Puffin pushes Eglette towards a rift of red, crackling energy. Eglette falls backward into a strange, glowing red void, utterly bewildered as Puffin watches from above. She lands hard on a stone floor with a painful thud, crying out in shock. Looking up from the ground, Eglette is met with the sharp tip of a sword pointed directly at her. She finds herself completely surrounded by armored human soldiers with their swords drawn. A man in a blue and white military uniform steps forward, looking down at the captured Eglette. The blue-haired man gazes down at her and declares, "Found you, Eglette." The disguised Puffin appears beside the man, asking if this is the girl he was looking for, and he confirms she is. The man then turns his sword on the old woman, outing her as a demon. He orders his soldiers to restrain the demon with a magic seal and to take Eglette away in the carriage. Trapped on the floor with swords crossed at her neck, Eglette hears an ominous thought. "Mother is waiting for us." Back in Raven's empty, ornate office, a voice calls out, questioning, "Eglette?" Raven stands in the doorway, realizing the room is empty, and she is gone. He sighs in frustration, thinking about how she has wandered off once again. His attention is caught by a faint, crackling trail of red energy lingering in the air. Raven examines the residue, identifying it as space magic and questioning who could have used it, knowing Egglet couldn't. As the red particles glow in his hand, a look of sudden realization crosses Raven's face as he identifies the culprit. Puffin. Elsewhere, a cell door slams shut, and Egglet is thrown into a dark prison. The blue-haired man stares down at Egglet through the bars, surprised she's still alive and human, while Puffin lies captured in another cell. Egglet asks if he's going to kill her, but he coldly informs her she will wait there until her punishment is decided. Confused, she asks about special treatment, and he scoffs that he'd planned to kill her, but their mother pleaded for her life. A sudden thought strikes Egglet as she wonders if the original course of events hasn't been fully altered yet. A flashback reveals the original plan, a ritual to sacrifice Egglet to summon a saint, which Raven internally notes is entirely unnecessary. A blood-splattered screen details the grim original timeline: sacrifice the princess, summon the saint, and defeat the Demon King. The thought of the Demon King's death sends a wave of despair through Egglet. Back in the present, the blue-haired man blushes and looks away, muttering that running away from her didn't help. Egglet reflects that she brought this on herself, just as a sudden noise startles both her and the blue-haired man. With newfound resolve, Egglet declares she's not the same as before and can escape, only to discover the magic ceiling bars nullify her power. She wonders why she was put in a magic ceiling cell, realizing someone must know she can use magic, and groans in frustration. In a nearby cell, Puffin lies unconscious on the stone floor. Seeing her, Egglet calls out in concern, warning that magic is sealed here, but Puffin furiously tells her to shut up. Puffin tearfully asks why Egglet is worried after she was the one who betrayed her. Egglet looks on, utterly confused by the accusation of betrayal. Puffin explains that she heard the prince was searching for a white-haired woman and led him to Egglet. Realizing her own capture was part of the deal, Puffin bitterly tells Egglet it serves her right, though she admits her fear. Egglet looks at Puffin with genuine curiosity and asks why she is considered a criminal. Standing with quiet determination, Egglet states, "That's what people like to say about those who are different." Puffin insists she did nothing wrong, mentioning the queen knew her name, which confirms for Egglet that the queen orchestrated the betrayal. Shaking the bars, Puffin demands Egglet reveal her true self, but Egglet calmly replies that there's nothing to show. Egglet quietly repeats the cruel judgment she's always heard. Someone without color or magic must be cursed. Reacting to the word cursed, Egglet explains that her white hair is her natural color, though she doesn't know why. She recounts her lonely past, explaining she grew up isolated in a tower, only dreaming of the outside world. Puffin furiously accuses her of lying and trying to deceive the Demon King. Stunned, Egglet asks Puffin how she could possibly know about that. Puffin explains that the story is an old one that all demons know, and it is the very reason they hate humans. Blushing, Puffin thinks about the Demon King and his willingness to die. She declares with fierce loyalty that she won't let him die, even if it costs her own life. Her words resonate with Egglet, who recalls how indifferent Raven seemed when they first met. The memory of Raven's gentle voice echoes in her mind, telling her that simply staying by his side is enough. Egglet turns to a startled Puffin and confesses that, unlike Raven, she didn't want to die. Bathed in moonlight, Egglet stands in her cell with a powerful new resolve. She formally introduces herself with her full name and title, Egglet Archaeopteryx, Princess of the Kingdom of Teryx. As she speaks, Egglet makes a silent vow to protect the Demon King, Raven, vowing that she will never let anyone kill him. Puffin stares in shock, trying to process the name of the forgotten kingdom. The realization hits her as she thinks in disbelief. "Princess?" A close-up shows Egglet's face, her expression now filled with unshakable determination. The title page for Chapter 23 is displayed. Puffin rattles her cell bars, yelling at Egglet to stop lying and insisting a princess shouldn't be there. She continues her denial, questioning how a princess could possibly have white hair. Egglet meets her frantic gaze with a calm, unwavering expression. Egglet reflects on her identity, quietly thinking her own name. A flashback reveals she was born Princess Eglet Archaeopteryx, but without any magic. Her magicless birth would have threatened the royal family, but then something changed. Eglet remembers that despite her circumstances, one person was always there for her. A memory surfaces of a young, blue-haired boy, her brother, inviting her to play since no one was around. The memory brings a flush to her younger self's face as she beams with pure joy. She recalls how her brother would sneak her out to play after discovering her. Their happy moments were cut short when her stepmother found them, demanding to know what they were doing. Puffin watches from her cell, sadly recalling that after that day, Eglet's brother never came back. Eglet muses that since her dreams relapsed, everyone has been kind, but it was all orchestrated by one person. A close-up reveals the faint, cruel smile of the person responsible. A woman in a regal red and purple dress appears outside the cell, announcing her arrival. Eglet looks up, stunned into silence as she recognizes her visitor. Puffin is equally shocked, wondering why the woman is there. The woman, Eglet's stepmother, says she's been looking for her and asks if she has finally sided with the devils. With a condescending smirk, she asks Eglet what the former queen taught her. Eglet smiles faintly and cuts to the heart of the matter, asking if her stepmother truly wants her to die. She directly accuses her stepmother of framing her for an assassination attempt on the queen. Realizing it's true, Eglet notes her brother isn't one to insult people without reason, as her stepmother coolly adds he'll soon be king. The news confuses Eglet, who remembers that in the game, he was supposed to remain a prince. The stepmother dismisses her confusion, revealing that tomorrow Eglet will be publicly executed. As Eglet gasps, her stepmother cruelly adds that her death will conveniently help defeat the Demon King. Feigning sorrow, the stepmother bids Eglet a final goodbye, reminding her that tomorrow is her last day. She then drops the act entirely, erupting into a fit of maniacal laughter while Eglet stares in horror. Later that night, Puffin sleeps fitfully in her cell. Bam! She suddenly jolts awake, shaking the bars and screaming that she's bored. Eglet sits in quiet contemplation, accepting that she can't escape now. She wonders if her only remaining hope lies in what will happen tomorrow. She realizes her execution won't be a quiet affair, but a public judgment before the nobles. Eglet considers a desperate plan to steal a soldier's sword, but questions what she would do next. She thinks of her brother, Heron, acknowledging that while strong, he is not invincible. Overwhelmed with despair, she wonders how she could possibly make them believe the truth. A sudden, grim realization dawns on her. If she dies, Raven will also die. Shaken, she grips the bars with newfound resolve, declaring she cannot let that happen. A black crow lands on her window before transforming into a cascade of dark feathers. As the feathers settle, Raven appears in her cell, much to her astonishment. He looks at her with deep concern, speaking her name with urgency. Standing before her, Raven softly tells her that he has finally found her. Eglet looks up at him, her eyes wide with disbelief as she whispers his name. A flustered Raven begins to ask why she left, but he's cut off. Grab. Eglet lunges forward and seizes his arm without a word. She pulls herself into his arms, embracing him in a desperate hug. Face buried in his shoulder, Eglet blushes, overcome with emotion. She lets out a soft sigh of relief, still clinging to him tightly. As they embrace, Eglet looks up at him, tearfully asking if it's really him. From the other cell, Puffin retorts that it's because Eglet won't be here anymore. Holding her tight, Raven scolds her for not staying by his side like he commanded, as Puffin watches the reunion. Puffin quietly observes the Demon King holding Eglet in a protective embrace. Pressed against him, Eglet wonders if he's this worried simply because she's the body pillow that comforts him. A flustered Raven bites her hair, insisting that her being a body pillow isn't why he's worried. Holding her close, Raven clarifies that he wants her to be his wife, stunning Eglet into silence. Leaning into his embrace, Eglet asks if she can stay by his side, making him blush. Overcome with emotion, a blushing Raven shyly agrees to her heartfelt request. Eglet insists she must resolve things herself, refusing Raven's offer to handle it for her. With a look of resolve, she declares that this is something she must do on her own. Raven reluctantly agrees to her plan, but warns that he will intervene if she's in any danger. She smiles gratefully and accepts his terms. He gently kisses her hand as she begins to thank him. Holding her hand, Raven vows not to let her go, clarifying it's not just for comfort, and she understands. From her cell, a blushing Puffin is left speechless by their intimate moment. The next day, the court is abuzz as nobles gasp in shock, announcing her arrival. Princess Egglet is led into the hall alongside Puffin, both bound, as Egglet maintains a calm expression. She stands before the throne, facing her family and the assembled court. Looking at the throne, she calmly addresses her father and brother. Her gaze then falls upon her stepmother, who peers coolly from behind a fan. A tense silence hangs between them, before the stepmother breaks it with a triumphant, cruel smile. The stepmother recoils dramatically, accusing Egglet of trying to curse her, causing Heron to cry out in alarm. Heron angrily demands the priest reveal her crimes, and the priest begins reading the formal charges, ending with a death sentence. The priest adds that she used a forbidden spell to summon the Demon King, shocking the listening nobles. Heron testifies that while they defeated the Demon King, she managed to escape with him afterward. The priest proposes an alternative sentence, sacrificing her to summon a saint, and Egglet realizes the true, twisted nature of their plan. She calls out their hypocrisy, asking if they will truly kill her on false charges and call it a noble sacrifice. Her direct accusation leaves her brother, Heron, momentarily stunned. The court begins to murmur, questioning the terms wrongly accused and sacrifice. Putting on a show, the stepmother bursts into tears, dramatically lamenting that the kind princess is gone. She pleads with the distressed emperor to use the flames to save Egglet, and he weakly agrees. With the king's permission, she rises and commands the guards to bring the flames. A heavy thud echoes through the hall, startling both Egglet and Puffin. The source of the sound is revealed, a massive, chained dragon being led into the throne room. The dragon lets out a furious, deafening roar. Unafraid, Egglet smiles brightly at the beast and asks to borrow its power. She repeats her accusation, questioning if they'll truly sacrifice her based on a crime she didn't commit. The dragon, now a glowing red, stands before her as a voice orders them both to be imprisoned. The massive red dragon looms over the two girls, its gaze fixed upon them. Facing the dragon, she renounces her title, stating that she is no longer the princess of this nation. A single tear escapes her eye, betraying the sorrow behind her defiant words. The stepmother turns to the terrified emperor, pressing him to give the final order. Stuttering in fear, the emperor gives the command to proceed. A guard shouts the order to purify the royal blood tainted by the demon. In response, the dragon opens its maw and lets out another thunderous, fiery roar. Tesk. As the dragon attacks, Puffin clicks her tongue in annoyance while Egglet watches in shock. With a burst of power, Puffin summons a massive magical shield, blocking the dragon's path. The shield holds, but Puffin realizes with dread that she's too weak from a previous fight to maintain her full power. Kia! The shield shatters under the strain, sending both girls flying backward. As she's thrown back, Egglet is startled to find that the impact has loosened the ropes binding her hands. Catching the weakened Puffin, Egglet desperately asks why she protected her. Tears streaming down her face, Puffin explains that the Demon King desperately needs her. Her expression hardening with resolve, Egglet promises she won't let Puffin die here. Leaning in close, she whispers that everything she does is for the Demon King's sake. With her hands untied, Egglet gently holds the bound and confused Puffin. Standing protectively before Puffin, Egglet tells her to stay strong, vowing to end this herself. The nobles murmur in confusion, questioning why a demon protected the princess and whether she's truly allied with them. The stepmother scoffs, believing the dragon is holding back for some reason. Kya! A powerful vortex of blue energy erupts around Egglet. She walks calmly through the throne room, leaving a trail of shimmering blue magic in her wake. A voice notes that while she was once timid, her face is now full of confidence. Stunned, the stepmother recognizes this newfound strength, realizing it's just like someone she once knew. A memory flashes back to a younger stepmother and a pink-haired girl making flower crowns in a field. The pink-haired girl excitedly presents her finished crown, calling out to her friend, Maina, "It's done." The young stepmother, Maina, smiles and praises the girl, Iris, for her talent. Back in the present, the memory leaves the stepmother shaken and horrified. As Heron recalls his stepsister Iris's similar fate, he realizes Eglette must be eliminated, just as the dragon unleashes a massive fireball. Eglette stands firm against the approaching inferno, seemingly unafraid. She holds out her palm, effortlessly gathering the dragon's fire into a sphere of raw energy. Clenching her fist, she absorbs the immense power in a brilliant flash. Surprised, Eglette admits she absorbed the power completely and finds it difficult to control. A confident, knowing smile spreads across her face. She faces the beast, declaring she'll now grant its wish and kill it, telling it to come at her with its full power. The dragon roars, unleashing another torrent of powerful flames directly at her. Eglette raises a hand, effortlessly blocking the fiery blast with a wall of pure light. With a determined expression, she contains the raw, fiery power in a glowing orb between her hands. Pressing her palms together, she begins to purify the volatile energy. With her eyes closed peacefully, she holds the stabilized, radiant orb of light. The dragon lowers its head as Eglette smiles and offers back the purified energy, announcing she's returning it. A blinding flash of holy light erupts from the energy transfer, engulfing the room. The royal family shield their eyes, reeling back in shock from the intense blast. The stepmother stares in utter disbelief, whispering that it's impossible. As the light fades, Eglette stands before a pile of ash where the dragon once was, a single red gem left behind. She gently cradles the red gem, softly promising to make sure it gets home safely. A black raven lands on her shoulder as she stands resolutely over the ashes. The nobles cry out in terror, calling her abnormal for consorting with a demon and warning everyone to stay away. The raven on her shoulder calmly asks what she plans to do next. Eglette turns her attention to her terrified stepmother, coldly uttering her name.
Eglith confronts her stepmother with a chilling question, a large black crow perched firmly on her shoulder. The dark-haired woman recoils in visible shock, stunned by the sudden and defiant return of the girl. Years earlier, a young, blue-haired Maina studies magic formulas intensely, determined to master every complex detail. A sudden, loud bang sounds as young Ibis bursts through the door, excitedly calling out to her friend. 6-year-old Ibis beams with innocent joy, her pink hair and bright yellow eyes radiating a cheerful energy. Maina sternly scolds Ibis for the interruption, explaining how dangerous it is to break a mage's concentration. Laughing lightheartedly, Ibis cheekily admits she couldn't sense any magic coming from her friend at all. Maina observes that despite Ibis's low magical capacity, the girl possesses remarkably sharp and accurate natural instincts. Although their parents forced them to compete, the two girls became roommates and formed an unexpected bond. Enthusiastically clapping her hands, young Ibis begs Maina to come see a special discovery she has made. The two young friends spin and dance together, their laughter filling the room as their friendship grows. Though others view her as a simpleton, Ibis's bright spirit remains a constant presence in Maina's life. Now 15, Maina is stunned to learn from her father that she has been chosen as queen consort. Her father explains that her high academic and magical evaluations have earned her the royal family's personal interest. Processing the monumental news, Maina realizes she is set to become the highest-ranking woman in the entire country. A massive thud echoes as her father drops a mountain of queen-oriented study books onto her desk. Maina worries about her grueling new curriculum, which leaves her time for nothing but eating and sleeping. Reflecting on her father's cold expectations, Maina bitterly wonders why her perfection still feels like losing. 15-year-old Ibis notices her friend spacing out and kindly asks if something is weighing on her mind. Mina forced a smile and lies about her worries, noting how Ibis never seems to have a care. In class, Ibis argues that since magic capacity is fixed, there is no use in worrying about it. As Maina walks through the halls, the school gossip confirms everyone expects her to be the next queen. Ibis shares a spotting Mina nearby. Ibis calls out with joy, unaware of the deep resentment her friend is currently feeling. Mina performs a perfect formal curtsy to the prince, who responds with a polite but slightly awkward greeting. A painful narrative reveals the prince came specifically to see Ibis, ignoring his secret fiancée, Maina. Ibis excitedly shows Mina a new magic formula she developed specifically to help those with low capacity. Her revolutionary spell allows the magically weak to cast strong magic, a breakthrough that leaves Mina speechless. The prince praises Ibis's ingenuity and her genuine concern for helping people, his admiration clearly visible. Overwhelmed by a sense of defeat, Mina pales as she realizes her academic superiority means nothing here. A sharp slap sounds as Mina's father rages. Ibis became queen while Mina was relegated to a concubine. Consumed by dark thoughts, Maina questions why Ibis was chosen when Maina was better in every possible way. The past merges with the present as the image of young Ibis looms over the defiant, white-haired Eglith. A sudden scuffle erupts as the stepmother's son tries to restrain his mother's violent and erratic behavior. Lost to murderous rage, the stepmother screams and lunges at Eglith with a drawn sword in hand. A massive black wing sweeps across the scene as a powerful voice commands Eglith not to move. A loud clang rings out as the stepmother's sword is violently knocked away by a sudden, dark intervention. Eglith stares in shock as a dark presence looms over her, insulting her attacker as a lowly human. The Demon King holds Eglith protectively, his eyes flashing with fury as he warns the stepmother away. His massive horns and overwhelming magical aura cast a terrifying and oppressive shadow over the entire room. Paralyzed by pure terror, the stepmother and her son can only watch the powerful being's protective display. The legendary Demon King is revealed in his full glory, holding Eglith close as he asserts his dominance. The title screen appears against a shimmering purple backdrop, marking the start of a new, dark chapter. Eglith looks up at her savior with tearful eyes, softly speaking the name Raven as she processes the rescue. Raven offers a gentle, apologetic smile, explaining he simply couldn't stand by and watch her be harmed. Panic spreads through the crowd of witnesses as they realize the most feared entity in the world has appeared. Crying out for his mother, the blue-haired son rushes forward to confront the demonic threat before him. A firm grip tightens around the hilt of his sword as the young man prepares for a desperate battle. The son boldly draws his blade, declaring he will not allow the Demon King to do as he pleases. The stepmother watches with a mix of fear and grim determination as her son stands against the Horned King. The blue-haired woman stands in the shadows, her expression cold as she contemplates the weight of a demonic pact. Looking visibly shaken, the blue-haired woman reacts with shock as her past secrets begin to surface. Raven reveals the woman's true identity as the concubine who used dark magic to curse the former queen. Now identified as the Dark Fallen Mage, the blue-haired woman's composure crumbles under the weight of the accusation. Eglith listens in stunned silence, struggling to process the revelation of a curse placed upon her own mother. A haunting vision of the pink-haired Ibis appears, echoing a child's desperate cry. sounding for her mother. Maina frantically accuses Raven and Eglith of a conspiracy, while the king watches the confrontation with growing suspicion. Despite Maina's desperate boasts of power, Raven calmly dismantles her lies, demanding she stop denying her crimes. Raven exposes the truth, noting that Mina's once great magical reserves were completely drained by her own dark curse. Years earlier, a pregnant Maina smugly celebrates carrying the king's child even before her rival could. Confident in her twisted plan, the younger Maina smiles with satisfaction while anticipating the success of her betrayal. Consumed by a desire for superiority, Maina prepares a dark ritual to prove the king made a mistake. The image of the cheerful, pink-haired ibis serves as a bitter contrast to Maina's deepening descent into darkness. Maina pours a glowing green potion into a magic pool, officially casting a lethal curse on Ibis's womb. Delusional with joy, Maina laughs as she envisions her rival's death and her own ascension to the throne. Unaware of the impending tragedy, the pink-haired ibis glows with maternal warmth while cradling her unborn child. The curse claims its victim, and Ibis is laid to rest amidst a sea of pure white lilies. Against all odds, the baby Eglith survived. The baby Eglith survived, growing more beautiful each year while unconsciously absorbing magic from others. Heron's world is shattered as he learns that the prophecy used to sacrifice Eglith was a total fabrication. Maina tries to shift the blame onto Eglith, but Heron's horrified expression suggests he finally sees her true nature. In a final act of desperation, Maina orders Heron to strike down the Demon King and his sister. Raven watches over Eglith as the full extent of the past's cruelty is finally brought into the light. Eglith is paralyzed by the horrifying thought that her very existence might have caused her mother's death. Raven reassures the trembling girl, explaining that her magic would have destroyed the country if it were truly malevolent. Comforting her with a protective embrace, Raven declares that Eglith has never truly harmed a single soul. As Maina continues her frantic denials, the king's face contorts with a mixture of grief and rising fury. The king sits in somber reflection, recalling that Ibis was already weakened by illness before giving birth. Memories resurface of young Ibis and Maina, revealing that Ibis chose to protect her friend despite the risks. Ibis smiled through her pain, hoping to support the future king and safeguard the peace of the realm. In a flashback of pure friendship, Ibis promises to always stay by Maina's side, unaware of the betrayal. The weight of her sins finally breaks Maina, leaving her gasping for air as her reality collapses. A soul-piercing scream erupts from Maina as the shock of her failure turns her hair to a ghostly gray. Eglith's childhood innocence is depicted as a radiant light, proving her spirit remained untouched by her mother's curse. Narrative boxes emphasize Eglith's unshakable sincerity, a stark contrast to the power-hungry mother who sought her ruin. The two young girls are seen together one last time, a bittersweet reminder of a friendship destroyed by envy. Maina howls Ibis' name in a fit of madness, her mind finally fracturing under the weight of her grief. The white-haired Eglith looks down at her stepmother, who has collapsed into a heap of pathetic misery. Manaya's transformation is complete. Her hair has turned entirely gray as she stares up with hollow, defeated eyes. Confronted by the girl she tried to destroy, Maina can only tremble as Eglith stands tall and resolute. Raven explains that the magic-draining pact has reached its limit, stripping away Maina's youth and her false disguise. Heron turns his back on his mother's pleas, ordering the royal guards to take the traitorous queen away. Silence falls over the room as the guards remove the broken woman, leaving Eglith to face the aftermath. Dropping his crown and his pride, the king collapses at Eglith's feet, begging for her forgiveness. Deeply remorseful, the king weeps openly, admitting that his only correct decision was choosing Eglith's mother. Eglith watches with a pained, distant gaze as the king shifts all the blame for their suffering onto Maina. The king pleads for a chance to reconcile, his voice trembling with a desperation that comes too late. Eglith's face remains unreadable, her eyes shadowed as she dwells on the word that once meant everything. The king waits in agony for a response, but the silence between father and daughter feels like an ocean. Eglith coldly cuts through his excuses, reminding him that he never once treated her with parental love. A massive dragon looms behind the siblings, symbolizing the powerful protection that once shielded the tower's sheltered princess. Heron laments the suffering his mother caused Eglith and vows to finally save his sister from her fate. Desperately calling out, Heron begs Eglith to remember the gentle person she was before the darkness took hold. Heron brandishes his sword at the Demon King, demanding his sister's release with a mixture of fear and determination. Raven prepares a surge of dark magic as Eglith softly calls his name, seemingly unbothered by her brother's threat. The siblings stand face to face as Heron holds his blade between them, his hands trembling with unresolved grief. Eglith gently touches the blade, reminding Heron of the flower crown he once crafted for her in happier times. A tearful, joyful smile breaks across Heron's face as he admits he still remembers that precious childhood memory. Eglith's expression turns ice-cold as she reminds Heron that he never once believed in her during her imprisonment. Heron is paralyzed by shock as Eglith declares that her suffering was entirely his and their father's fault. A vision of the innocent, flower-crowned Eglith contrasts sharply with the broken man's current, agonizing reality. A sharp clang rings out as Heron's sword slips from his hands and clatters uselessly onto the floor. Heron collapses to his knees in total defeat, unable to bear the weight of Eglith's rightful resentment. Eglith observes her brother's broken spirit, coldly deciding that his current misery is a fitting conclusion to their past. Gazing at the stars, Eglith questions if she has truly fallen into darkness, but decides it no longer matters. Eglith smiles with newfound peace, realizing that her place beside the powerful Raven is all she truly needs. Raven looks down at Eglith with a soft gaze, suggesting that they finally return to their true home. Eglith offers a warm, certain agreement, ready to leave the ghosts of her former life far behind her. Heron watches in stunned silence as the sister he tried to rescue chooses the Demon King over him. Massive black wings unfurl as Raven takes flight, carrying Eglith away into the safety of the night sky. Heron reaches out with a desperate cry, pleading for them to wait as they ascend toward the moon. The pair soars high above the kingdom's towers, leaving the ruins of Eglith's childhood and Heron's regrets below. Raven holds Eglith close, telling her to be prepared for what comes next as they approach their destination. Eglith responds with a shy, blushing smile, her heart racing as she rests in Raven's protective and powerful arms. As they fly, Eglith reflects on the overwhelming series of events that led her to this incredible moment. She recalls waking up in this world, hiring the Demon King, and her strange role as his body pillow. Her memories shift to life in the castle, her eventual capture, and finally settling her destiny with Heron. In the present, Raven carries Eglith through the cool night air as she processes the closure she finally found. Raven notices her quiet reflection and gently asks what is wrong as they drift through the starry sky. Eglith offers a bright, happy smile and assures him that everything is fine now that she is back. A deep blush spreads across Eglith's face as she leans closer to the man who saved her soul. The green-horned owl greets them warmly upon their arrival, expressing deep relief that they have returned safely. Raven stands tall and protective with Eglith as they face their loyal subordinate in the quiet castle hall. Eglith expresses her gratitude to Owl, while Raven maintains a stoic but satisfied presence beside the young girl. Eglith asks Owl to look after a red dragon egg and the small, sleeping creature she calls Puffin. Owl adjusts his glasses with interest, leaning in to examine the mysterious items Eglith is cradling so carefully. The tiny Puffin sleeps soundly beside the large, scaly red egg as Eglith holds them both with care. Eglith explains that Puffin exhausted her magic to protect her from harm during their time in the tower. Flashbacks show a brown-haired Puffin being drained of magic in prison, while still striving to shield her mistress. Owl accepts the dragon egg and the resting Puffin, promising Eglith that he will personally ensure their recovery. Eglith asks if they will be all right, and Owl kindly reassures her that it will simply take some time. Raven teasingly reminds Eglith that she should have trusted him from the start, prompting a joyful reaction. Raven informs Eglith that a medicinal bath and a warm meal have already been prepared for her return. A sudden, loud growl sounds from Eglith's stomach, instantly breaking the serious mood of their late-night homecoming. Mortified and blushing intensely, Eglith admits she is starving after being unable to eat for such a long time. Owl hides a slight blush of his own, suggesting they proceed with the meal first to satisfy her hunger. Raven breaks into genuine hearty laughter, finding Eglith's embarrassment and her appetite to be incredibly charming. Eglith cries out in a flustered protest, telling Raven to stop laughing at her as her face turns red. Owl watches the playful interaction with a gentle smile, moved by the rare sight of Raven's innocent laughter. Later, Eglith sits quietly on the edge of the bed, watching Raven with a shy and hesitant expression. Raven reaches out to cup Eglith's blushing face, his voice low and gentle as he asks what's wrong. Raven gazes at Eplet with a serious expression, softly calling her name as a gentle light surrounds them. Her white hair glowing, Eplet looks up at Raven and asks for the truth about his feelings. Raven rubs his black hair awkwardly, admitting that he never expected to feel such deep, confusing emotions. In the shimmering vision, Eplet's mother, or her past self, smiles brightly, symbolizing a warm, precious memory. Raven gently holds a lock of Eplet's hair, recalling how she once pleaded for her life to him. Blushing intensely, Eplet is stunned by Raven's sudden confession that he cannot bear the thought of losing her. Overwhelmed by her own racing heart, Eplet stumbles into Raven's arms, questioning why she feels so drawn. Eplet clings to Raven's chest, closing her eyes as she finally whispers a heartfelt confession of love. Raven cups Eplet's face and gazes into her eyes, warmly confirming that he feels exactly the same way. The two share a tender, private moment on the bed, their long-held emotions finally blooming into a deep embrace. Raven, his shirt open, pulls Eplet close and possessively declares that she belongs solely to him. A decorative title card marks the beginning of Chapter 30, set against a soft, glowing background. Raven pulls Eplet into a passionate kiss, their shared affection filling the room with a warm, romantic light. A soft, muffled sound escapes Eplet as Raven continues the deep kiss, his hands cradling her face gently. The intensity of their kiss grows, accompanied by soft, breathy sounds as they lose themselves in each other. Pulling back slightly, Raven hears Aplet whisper his name with a flustered, breathless expression and wide, shimmering eyes. Raven nuzzles Aplet's neck, eliciting a soft gasp as she clutches his shoulders in a daze of passion. Gently pinning her to the pillows, Raven prepares to deepen their connection as Aplet lets out a soft, surprised sound. Raven gazes down with a smoldering intensity, his shirt falling open to reveal his powerful and lean torso. Aplet stares up in wide-eyed awe, her face deeply flushed as she admires Raven's breathtaking and beautiful appearance. Puffin rants in high-pitched frustration while Owl calmly pushes a tea cart, asking if she's bothering the couple. Raven sits regally with Aplet on his lap, completely unfazed by the comical bickering between Puffin and Owl. The two share a joyful, blushing laugh, finally finding true happiness and comfort in one another's company. Narrative boxes confirm a successful outcome, signaling a bright new chapter for the formerly tower-bound princess and her protector. A dark-haired woman stands silhouetted against a grand window, her presence framed by elegant, heavy blue curtains. Heron kneels on the floor, his blue hair bowed as he desperately begs the woman for her strength. The dark-haired woman is revealed as the Saintess, her eyes wide with surprise at the blue-haired man's plea. Raven unfurls his massive black wings while protectively holding Aplet, who contemplates her descent into her new life. A stark narrative message emphasizes that the current dark reality is entirely the fault of those who failed her. A hand reaches out with desperate urgency, accompanied by a frantic, echoing cry for Aplet to wait. Heron bolts upright in bed, screaming his sister's name as he awakens from a terrifying, vivid nightmare. He sits panting in his grand bedchamber, realizing that his sister's disappearance was not just a bad dream. Gripping the sheets in despair, Heron laments his sister's fate and wishes the harsh reality was only a dream. A dark illustration shows the Demon King holding Aplet captive, surrounded by sharp thorns and an aura of danger. Tears stream down Heron's face as he takes full responsibility for failing to protect Aplet from their mother's malice. Heron's mind conjures a comical yet dark vision of Raven tormenting a weeping Aplet with a long whip. Gazing out a window, Heron vows to save his sister, urging her to hang on just a little longer. Heron's expression hardens with resolve as he decides that defeating the Demon King is his only path to redemption. A soft, polite voice interrupts the silence of the room as a woman with long dark hair enters. Hibari, the dark-haired saintess, approaches Heron with concern, asking if he is all right after hearing his loud nightmare. Heron offers a small, forced smile, apologizing to the Saintess for causing a commotion in the middle of the night. Text reveals that Hibari was summoned from another world only days ago after encountering a set of ancient texts. Heron sees Hibari as the kingdom's final hope for bringing Aplet back from the Demon King's dark fortress. Hibari urgently grabs Heron's hand, her face flushing as she tries to reassure the grieving blue-haired prince. She speaks with a soft, determined voice, acknowledging the horror of his sister's kidnapping and offering her support. Heron looks into Hibari's eyes with a mixture of shock and dawning hope, moved by her sudden, sincere empathy. Hibari asks Heron to call her by her name, feeling a strange but familiar bond with him already. She admits her confusion about this new world, but identifies the Demon King as the primary source of darkness. Heron's eyes shimmer with renewed purpose, inspired by Hibari's promise to restore the light of dawn together. Hibari offers a confident, radiant smile, declaring her firm intention to personally defeat the Demon King for the kingdom. Heron glows with hope, blushing as he places his full trust in Hibari's strength. Soft, rhythmic scrubbing sounds echo as Eplet diligently cleans the floor with a damp cloth. Gasping for air, Epaulet wipes her brow in relief after finishing her strenuous chores in the castle. Carrying her bucket, Epaulet realizes the palace was already spotless, and her cleaning felt largely unnecessary. Life in the Demon King's castle continues as Epaulet resumes her duties and her nightly role as his companion. Epaulet's face flushes a deep red as she shyly recalls the passionate events of the previous night. Epaulet lets out a startled cry as Raven suddenly appears behind her, calling her name. Raven offers a faint, teasing smirk, gently advising the flustered Epaulet not to be so easily startled. Her heart pounding, Epaulet protests his sudden appearance and begs him not to sneak up on her. Raven points out her constant daydreaming, causing Epaulet to blush even more intensely under his close gaze. A heavy thud sounds as Raven pins Epaulet against the wall, his presence overwhelming and intense. With a serious expression, Raven admits his possessive jealousy, his dark eyes never leaving hers for a second. Flustered and stumbling over her words, Epaulet tries to deny the obvious growing tension between them. Epaulet reflects on how Raven's affection has become increasingly bold and passionate since they became a couple. Raven leans in close, his gaze searching her eyes as he asks if she is being truthful. Fidgeting with her soiled hands, Epaulet tries to keep her distance to avoid getting him dirty. Raven silences her with a sudden, passionate kiss, eliciting a soft, muffled sound of surprise from her. Lost in a deep embrace, the couple shares a lingering, breathless kiss that fills the room with romantic heat. Raven pulls back slightly, calling Epaulet's name as she remains dazed and flustered from his touch. Epaulet suddenly erupts in a frantic scream of embarrassment, pushing away from a bewildered and stunned Raven. Desperate to escape the tension, Epaulet flees the room, claiming she still has more cleaning to finish. Raven rubs his head awkwardly, wondering if his frequent advances are becoming too aggressive for her comfort. A soft, nervous gulp sounds as Raven prepares to reveal a secret he has been hiding. Raven's hands tremble slightly as he stares at a small ring box, feeling uncharacteristically nervous. Standing in her nightgown, Epaulet contemplates their deepening bond and the time they have spent together. Raven's intense declarations of love and desire echo in Epaulet's mind, making her heart race with excitement. Epaulet covers her face in embarrassment, worrying about how Raven might act in front of others. Gazing into the mirror, Epaulet worries that her shy avoidance is making Raven feel anxious and overprotective. Despite his overwhelming passion, Epaulet finds comfort in Raven's constant admiration of her flustered state. Epaulet wonders if Raven intentionally leaves marks on her skin as a sign of his deep devotion. Epaulet realizes that the Demon King is a man of direct action who never hides his true emotions. Sensing his lingering hesitation, Epaulet suspects that Raven is struggling to find the words for something important. A loud bang startles Epaulet as Puffin bursts into the room with urgent, wide-eyed energy. Puffin scolds Epaulet for not being dressed, her voice high-pitched and full of impatient frustration. Demanding immediate action, Puffin urges Epaulet to hurry and follow her to an important meeting. Puffin reveals the shocking news that a mysterious woman has suddenly arrived in Epaulet's former hometown. The gravity of the situation sinks in as Puffin identifies the newcomer as the legendary Saintess. Puffin explains that the Demon King is waiting to hear Epaulet's thoughts on this unexpected development. Aplet is troubled, knowing the Saintess's summoning was originally linked to her own death in the game's flow. A flashback reveals a priest explaining that a false prophecy demanded noble blood for the summoning ritual. Aplet realizes that exposing her stepmother's crimes has fundamentally altered the conditions of the ritual. Clutching her chest in guilt, Aplet wonders if her survival has inadvertently caused this new crisis. Forcing a bright smile, Aplet assures Puffin that nothing is wrong as they rush to the hall. Raven sits regally at his desk while Owl presents a report on the kingdom's recent activities. Aplet and Puffin arrive at the meeting, with Aplet already aware of the Saintess's arrival. Raven confirms the ritual's success and asks Aplet for her knowledge regarding the otherworldly Saintess. Raven's gaze softens as he calls out to Aplet, sensing her internal turmoil regarding the news. Stepping forward with resolve, Epaulet confirms that she possesses vital information about the summoned girl. Aplet describes the Saintess as a woman from another world, with dark hair and eyes like ravens. The room falls silent as Aplet warns that the Saintess is the only one capable of defeating him. Puffin and Owl react with wide-eyed shock as a sharp sound of surprise punctuates Aplet's bold declaration. A stark narrative box appears, echoing Aplet's firm resolve to prevent a tragic future from unfolding. Aplet's eyes shine with determination as she vows to protect Raven from being defeated by the coming Saintess. Golden frames describe the Saintess as an otherworldly hero summoned specifically to defeat the Demon King. Raven questions Epaulet's meaning, while Owl and Puffin listen intently to the high-stakes conversation in the hall. Epaulet demands that Raven entrust the matter of the Saintess to her, her face filled with intense focus. Caught off guard by the princess's confidence, Puffin lets out a startled cry of disbelief as she watches. Raven's smoldering gaze meets Epaulet's as she confirms her deep, mysterious knowledge regarding the Saintess's identity. Aplet describes the Saintess's features, emphasizing her dark hair and eyes as markers of her role in prophecy. A dark illustration reveals a bloody, bad ending where the Demon King is struck down by the Saintess. Clenching her skirt tightly, Epaulet recalls witnessing this tragic outcome many times within the flow of the story. With a flushed face and desperate tone, Epaulet pleads for Raven to let her intervene against the danger. She declares her intention to send the summoned girl back home, preventing the fated conflict before it begins. Owl adjusts his glasses and points out that the magic required for such a task remains largely unknown. Aplet explains that the Saintess must find a partner to succeed, or she will be forced to return home. A grim warning describes a bad ending where the Saintess and her partner are devoured by the king. A haunting image shows a corrupted castle, symbolizing the total destruction of the world following Raven's loss of control. Visualizing as a chibi, Epaulet vows to prevent Raven from ever experiencing such a horrific and dark fate. Narrative text outlines another bad ending where the Saintess wakes up in her world, believing everything was a dream. This result would erase the Saintess's existence from history, a conclusion Epaulet considers a necessary path for safety. Splashed with blood, the portraits of Heron and the Saintess illustrate the cyclic nature of their tragic summonings. Aplet contemplates a bizarre ending involving complicated romance, which she identifies as a true nightmare for any player. A final narrative box confirms her strategy to ensure the Saintess follows the least destructive path for everyone. Shivering as a small chibi, Epaulet worries if this world will vanish if it is eventually deemed a dream. She realizes that since she successfully avoided her own death, Raven's dark fate can surely be changed too. Aplet explains that the Saintess will enter the academy to seek out partners who are highly skilled in swordsmanship. Puffin stares at Eplet in complete awe, stunned by the depth and accuracy of the princess's incredible knowledge. Hiding her true origins behind a smile, Eplet claims her past as a princess provided all the necessary information. Owl summarizes the plan to keep the Saintess isolated and prevent her from forming any heroic, dangerous bonds. Eplet confirms the goal while silently acknowledging the game's tendency to force characters together despite her best efforts. She hesitates to speak too freely, fearing that revealing too much will lead Raven to question her secret identity. A vision of a brown-haired woman reveals Epaulette's original form before she was reincarnated into this magical world. Stepping closer, Eplet makes a final, passionate plea to Raven to let her take control of the situation. Raven remains unmoving and stern, flatly refusing to allow Eplet to walk into such a high level of danger. Eplet asks why, as Raven explains that her beautiful face and hair make her instantly recognizable to the nobility. Raven describes her striking features, noting that her unique appearance is far too famous to hide among commoners. His intense gaze conveys his protective resolve as he emphasizes the sheer peril of her proposed infiltration plan. Eplet suggests dyeing her hair as a solution, but Raven shuts the idea down with a cold refusal. He explains that her magic-absorbing nature makes maintaining a color difficult, and he refuses to dirty her hair. Raven declares that Eplet belongs to him, causing her to blush deeply at his sudden and intense possessiveness. Owl politely interrupts the moment, proposing a magical alternative that might bypass the limitations of a mundane hair dye. Raven remains skeptical about finding a viable solution, questioning the existence of a method that can mask her. Owl expresses his shared loyalty, explaining that his desire to help stems from a deep concern for Raven's safety. Touched by the support, Eplet looks at Owl with soft eyes as he prepares to reveal his secret plan. Owl smiles confidently, announcing that he possesses a specific method that could solve their disguise problem once and for all. A grand jewelry box is opened to reveal a ring and necklace once worn by the former royalty. Raven stares at the treasures of his parents, his expression softening as he contemplates the legacy they left behind. Owl presents Renris' secret stone, explaining how it acts as a magical conduit between its two designated wearers. Eplet listens as Owl explains she can continuously draw on Raven's magic to maintain a perfect magical disguise. Raven considers the proposal, realizing the artifact will allow Eplet to stay safely and permanently by his side. Raven explains that they will each wear half of the magical gem, so he can supply Eplet with magic. Looking at the green-haired man, Eplet questions if his demonic features will be noticed by others. Owl clarifies that demon and human magic are similar, though people often judge based on horns and ears. Raven asks if Eplet will be able to cast magic like a normal person using this method. Adjusting his glasses, Owl confirms she can, though the magic she produces will not be particularly strong. Eplet is wide-eyed with wonder at the realization that she can finally wield magic of her own. Raven looks at her intently, confirming it is possible as long as she has a steady magical supply. Epletta hesitates, recalling her past ability only to reflect attacks and doubting her capacity to cast spells. She considers that maintaining a simple magical disguise for her hair should be possible with a constant flow. Raven offers a faint, knowing smile, silently acknowledging that the princess is still keeping secrets from him. His expression softens as he calls Eplet over, drawing her attention back to the task at hand. Raven turns to his subordinates, Owl and Puffin, requesting that they leave the room to give them privacy. Puffin and Owl bow respectfully and agree to leave as a soft click sounds from the closing door. Once they are alone, Raven stares deeply at Eplet, his face a mixture of concern and resolve. Raven asks if she is truly certain about her plan, and Aplet confirms her unwavering determination. He questions if her primary motivation for entering such a dangerous situation is her desire to protect him. Blushing, Aplet admits his strength, but explains her desperate need to intervene before the Saintess causes a tragedy. Raven gently cups her face, realizing her actions are born of genuine worry rather than mere pride. He tells her that her own fear for his safety is exactly why he is so hesitant to go. Clutching her chest, Aplet softly agrees, her heart full of the heavy emotions she feels for the king. She tearfully confesses that she cannot bear the thought of him dying or losing him forever. Raven admits that his feelings mirror hers perfectly, sharing the same painful intensity of love and protection. The two stand together before the open jewelry box, the weight of their shared destiny hanging in the air. Raven holds out the necklace, instructing Epaulet to put it on so they can begin the magical connection. Aplet smiles brightly and agrees, ready to take the next step in her plan to change the future. Epaulet fastens the pendant around her neck, while Raven slides the matching ring onto his gloved finger. A sudden whoosh of dark energy erupts from Raven as he begins to channel his power into the artifacts. Aplet gasps with a soft ah as the stone on her necklace begins to glow with a vibrant light. Raven encourages her to try using his magic, promising to increase the flow to help her maintain the spell. Closing her eyes in deep concentration, Epaulet focuses on enveloping herself in the surging magic to change her appearance. A shimmering light surrounds her, and Aplet's hair transforms into a long, brilliant shade of pink. Raven gazes at her new look, admitting with a heavy heart that he truly does not want her to go. The scene shifts to the Grand National Academy, where students gossip about the arrival of the legendary Saintess. Two students discuss rumors of a demon-possessed queen, believing the Saintess is their only hope for salvation. They mention the kidnapped princess and pity Prince Heron, unaware that Epaulet is walking right past them. Dressed in a school uniform, the pink-haired Epaulet reflects on her new fake identity as Ibis White. A narrative box identifies the prestigious Pteryx Kingdom's National Academy for Magical Knights as the current setting. The school is described as a boarding academy where the children of the nobility are sent to study. It hosts elite magic and night courses alongside a larger general course for various other noble students. Attending the academy has become a major status symbol for the kingdom's elite and ambitious families. Aplet walks through the busy hall, noting that money is often the key to entry in modern times. She reaffirms her cover as the daughter of a merchant tycoon, having forged her way into the school. Aplet vows to remain a background character while carefully manipulating the events to prevent the game's bad endings. Her attention is caught by a girl with long, dark hair walking ahead of her in the hallway. A narrative box introduces the dark-haired girl as Hibari, the saintess who was summoned from another world. Aplet wonders if Hibari is a simple NPC or another reincarnator aiming to capture her brother's heart. Epaulet's eyes fill with determination as she prepares for the high-stakes tasks that lie ahead of her. A mustachioed teacher stands by a crystal ball, announcing the start of the student course assignments. An illustration explains that students with high levels of magical power are assigned to the magic course. Those with decent but lower magic levels are placed into the night course to train as magical warriors. Aplet, disguised with pink hair, reflects on her assignment to the general course while adjusting her new academy uniform. Keeping a low profile, she considers other capture targets, while the proctor assigns various students to the general course. A sudden shout announcing the magic course startles her, drawing her attention to the elite student assessments. Shrike, the blunt and famous Duke's son, is introduced as a top-tier student in the prestigious magic course. Scanning the crowd, she notes that the upperclassmen capture targets are likely absent from today's introductory student ceremony. Thinking of her brother Heron, she feels a surge of fear about her secret identity being exposed too early. She recalls Heron's dense nature regarding feelings, hoping his obliviousness will help her remain hidden within the school. Hibari, the black-haired saintess, channels an intense, glowing magical energy into the assessment crystal ball. The teacher is visibly shaken by Hibari's massive power, fearing the assessment crystal might shatter under the immense strain. Shrike and other students gossip about Hibari's rare black hair and incredible magical potential during the evaluation. Observing the spectacle, she notes that the events are unfolding exactly as they did in the original game's script. As Hibari departs, the proctor calls Ibis White forward to begin her own magical power measurement. Whispers about Heron's direct guardianship fill the air as Ibis approaches the crystal until a sudden wah sounds. A violent crack echoes as the magic crystal shatters between Ibis White's hands, leaving her completely stunned and terrified. Shrike watches the aftermath of the shattered artifact with a curious and questioning gaze from the sidelines. Panicking internally, she realizes the shared magic from Raven was far too powerful for the fragile assessment crystal. She sweatily suggests to the teacher that the crystal was pre-cracked by Hibari's overwhelming power to avoid suspicion. Putting on a strained smile, she waits as the teacher agrees to wait a moment before trying again. She wonders if Raven's protective magic is simply too powerful, or if his worry caused an extra magical surge. Clutching her chest, she swears a silent oath to protect Raven and change their dark future no matter what. Students whisper about her beauty and seemingly low magic levels as she makes her way through the busy hallway. Hibari stares back with a neutral, silent gaze amidst the continued murmuring of the curious and gossiping crowd. Shrike remains silent, his intense eyes fixed on her as she tries to blend into the student background. A new purple magic crystal is placed on the red cushion for a second attempt at the magical assessment. Steeling her resolve, she prepares to touch the new crystal, determined to control her power this time. Relieved to have entered the general course, she walks through the halls thinking about her future dorm roommate. Her heart stops as she suddenly comes face to face with a familiar blue-haired student in the quiet hallway. Shock washes over Prince Heron's face as he utters her true name, Egglet, in a trembling, surprised voice. Heron stares in disbelief, asking if it is truly her, while she stands frozen under his intense, questioning gaze. Heron sits at his desk, contemplating Hibari's assessment and the secret circumstances regarding his sister's supposed death. He reflects on Hibari's rare black hair and the unfathomable power she possesses, comparing her to the Demon King. From behind his desk, Heron considers how delicate Hibari appears, despite holding such a repulsive and dark power. He thinks of the lies he allowed Hibari to believe regarding his beloved little sister falling to the Demon King. A quick ch sounds as Heron snaps his quill, feeling the heavy guilt of maintaining the cruel deception. Hibari is shown in a saintly, glowing light as Heron reflects on her kindness and the burden he carries. A sharp gotcha click sounds as an aide enters the room to report the conclusion of the entrance ceremony. The aide reports that a different student broke the crystal, quickly correcting his earlier assumption about the saintess. Heron questions if someone else possesses even more magic, until the aide explains the crystal was likely pre-broken. Heron smiles softly upon hearing the student had pink hair and low magic, assuming she was merely surprised. The aide mentions the dorm placements, noting that a special room has been prepared for the saintess as ordered. Because of the lower number of female students, all of them are receiving private rooms this year. With a loud gotta sound. Heron stands up, deciding to visit the Saintess at the dorms immediately. Walking through the courtyard with steady taps, Heron heads toward the dormitory to personally check on Habari. A sudden gust of wind, marked by a sharp swoosh, blows petals past Heron as a girl walks by. Heron stops dead in his tracks, his eyes widening in total shock as he catches a familiar glimpse. The pink-haired girl walks past him, her appearance hauntingly similar to the sister he thought was lost forever. Disguised and stunned, she stops as she realizes she has been spotted by someone she knows all too well. The two stand apart in the grand, arched hallway, the tension thick as Heron stares at the mysterious girl. Heron reaches out with a trembling hand, his voice a whisper as he asks if it is truly his sister. She stares back in shock, her heart racing as Heron recognizes her despite her magical disguise and pink hair. Heron calls out her name in complete shock, while Epaulette bows low and apologizes for their sudden encounter. Fearing exposure, she desperately begs for the prince's forgiveness for her perceived insolence in his presence. Heron dismisses her apology, his mind clearly racing as he stares at the girl who looks hauntingly familiar. Noticing her visible trembling, the prince's expression softens as he observes the pink-haired girl's intense nervousness. He gently reassures her, explaining that within these academy walls, he is simply a student, and she a junior. Heron requests that she raise her head, asking for her name as he continues to study her features closely. Blushing slightly, she introduces herself as Ibis White, claiming her place in the first-year general course. The name rings a bell for Heron, who recalls a merchant family by that name from the Bernu region. Despite the name, Heron remains internally conflicted, unable to ignore how much she resembles his lost sister, Egglet. He questions her family background, prompting Ibis to launch into an enthusiastic lie about being her parents' blessing. Panic flares in her eyes as Heron grows suspicious, leaving her desperate to find a way to maintain her cover. Heron falls into deep thought, unaware that he's missing a crucial event with the Saintess because of this encounter. His gaze lingers on her vibrant pink hair, searching for any sign of the truth behind her magical disguise. He suddenly asks if she broke the assessment crystal, causing Ibis to break into a cold, guilt-ridden sweat. A warm smile returns to his face as he assumes the Saintess's power simply overwhelmed and shocked the girl. Heron praises the Saintess's incredible magic and black hair, leaving Ibis wondering if her deception actually worked. Relieved, she thanks the heavens for the prince's gullibility, even if it reflects poorly on his royal character. To her surprise, Heron expresses a desire to continue their conversation, catching the pink-haired girl completely off guard. He kindly invites her to sit and chat on a nearby bench, further complicating her plans to stay hidden. Heron's eyes sparkle with warmth as Ibis reacts with a shocked gasp at his unexpected and persistent interest. Under the clear sky, the two sit together in the academy courtyard as she reluctantly agrees to his request. Heron beams with joy, exclaiming that she must be happy to be enrolled in such a prestigious institution. Straining to maintain her composure, Ibis offers a hollow agreement, while internally struggling with the awkward situation. A nervous laugh escapes her as she realizes her true feelings are likely showing on her panicked face. Heron lets out a hearty ha-ha laugh, mistakenly attributing her strange behavior to the natural nerves of meeting royalty. He encourages her to smile and relax, completely unaware of the mental exhaustion his junior is currently experiencing. His tone turns somber as he admits that she reminds him deeply of his beloved little sister. A painful memory surfaces of how his lack of trust led Egglet into the arms of the Demon King. Overcome with guilt, Heron covers his face while lamenting the tragedy caused by his own disbelief and failure. Ibis watches him, recognizing his heavy burden as the story's hero, while she remains trapped in her disguise. She offers words of comfort, assuring him that his sister would surely respond to such heartfelt and pained sincerity. Heron blushes and looks touched, feeling as though his sister's spirit is speaking directly through Miss White's words. With newfound affection, the prince asks if he might call her by her first name, Ibis. He eagerly grasps her hands, declaring that her company has lightened his heart and he must see her again. Stunned by his forwardness, the pink-haired girl can only let out a shocked "eh" as her heart races. Deep within her consciousness, the white-haired egglet scolds herself for the prince's idiocy and her own current predicament. Raven, his horns sharp and expression stern, reminds her of Heron's past cruelty while questioning her meeting plans. Returning to her true form at night, Eplet frantically tries to explain the complicated situation to a jealous Raven. Under the crescent moon, the Demon King's castle stands tall as the two argue over her interactions with Heron. Through a magical mirror passage, Eplet returns to her dorm room, protected by the Demon King's powerful wards. She sighs in relief, glad for her private room, which saves her from having to magically deceive a roommate. Suddenly, Raven pins her to the bed, possessively declaring that she belongs solely to him and no one else. He looms over her as she acknowledges his complex feelings, the tension between them growing thick and heavy. His hand grazes her white hair and shoulder, his gaze fixed on her features with intense, burning possessiveness. Eplet gasps, "Ah!" as he touches her skin, her face flushing crimson under his overwhelming and intimate presence. Bringing his face close to hers, Raven commands her to never let anyone else touch her again. Haunted by Heron's touch from earlier, Eplet nervously asks what would happen if someone did cross that line. With a cold and focused gaze, Raven promises to make anyone who dares to touch her disappear forever. A dark, sharp-toothed smile crosses his face, as he warns her that she would also receive a fitting punishment. Eplet trembles in his grasp, her heart pounding at the frightening yet thrilling implication of his possessive threat. In a hazy memory, the horned raven leans in close to a silver-haired girl, sharing an intimate moment. The silver-haired girl looks up in shock, her face flushing as she tries to stop Raven's advance. Their lips meet in a sudden kiss, a recollection that makes the present Ibis's heart race with embarrassment. Breathless and blushing, the girl in the memory pleads. The scene shifts back to the present academy, where a golden frame notes that things aren't as expected. Prince Heron waves enthusiastically, calling out to Ibis White, while a black-haired girl stands quietly beside him. Ibis forces a smile, sweating nervously. Heron touches his chin thoughtfully, wondering if she was in a rush, while the black-haired girl watches him intently. The black-haired girl asks Heron if he is well acquainted with Ibis, her expression neutral yet curious. Blushing, Heron admits Ibis reminds him of his sister, explaining why he was so eager to speak with her. A small, satisfied smile touches the black-haired girl's lips while Heron looks away in bashful silence. Her internal thoughts reveal a cold calculation, dismissing Ibis as nothing more than a mere background character. Dismissing the topic with a bright smile, she claims it was nothing, hiding her true thoughts from the prince. Ibis walks through the academy corridors, reflecting on the 2 weeks that have passed since her enrollment began. Heron appears with a cheerful grin, boldly asking Ibis if she would like to join him for lunch. An aura of annoyance surrounds Ibis as she mentally insults the idiot prince for his persistent and public attention. She wonders why he is so obsessed, doubting that simple resemblance to his sister is the only reason. She recalls another day when Heron ignored the black-haired girl to focus entirely on her presence in the hall. His eyes sparkled as he shouted her name, his excitement clearly visible to everyone nearby. Heron's enthusiastic greeting left the black-haired girl standing awkwardly in the background, witnessing his blatant favoritism toward Ibis. Watching the black-haired girl, Ibis ponders if she is a simple NPC or a reincarnator targeting the game's leads. She worries that her likability with Heron is rising too fast, disrupting the original script's rival character dynamics. A sudden gasp of, "Huh?" escapes her as a strange sensation catches her off guard in the crowded hallway. A student bumps hard into her with a loud whoa, nearly knocking the pink-haired girl off her feet. Ibis collapses onto the wooden floor with a pained ouch, looking back at the students who rushed past her. She notices a large crowd gathered, realizing the main group of capture targets is assembled in one place. Peeking from behind the boys, Ibis wonders what is causing such a stir among the elite academy students. The black-haired saintess is the center of attention, surrounded by all the male leads who are laughing and talking. Ibis feels relieved seeing the saintess succeeding, thinking things are finally returning to the original game's intended path. She turns to leave, but a sharp shout of, "Hey, you!" from behind stops her in her tracks. Ibis looks back in horror to see red blood splattered across her long pink hair and the back of her dress. Trembling with shock, she wonders when this malicious prank occurred and how she failed to notice it sooner. Three girls, led by one with wavy purple hair, smirk cruelly while they giggle at Ibis's ruined appearance. The commotion draws the gaze of the capture targets and the saintess, who turn to see the mess. Lifting a lock of her hair, Ibis realizes the red liquid is blood from the earlier collision. A frantic warning to not touch the substance echoes through the hall as the boys look on with concern. The saintess rushes over, identifying the liquid as fresh venomous snake blood intended for use as a curse material. Commanding Ibis to stay still, the black-haired girl raises her hands to perform a purification spell on the blood. The surrounding students watch with bated breath, mesmerized by the saintess's quick and selfless use of holy magic. Glowing sparkles surround Ibis's hair as the magical energy works to neutralize the dangerous curse material on her. The saintess kindly tells her it is finished, but advises a change of clothes and a thorough hair washing. Ibis thanks her while realizing this specific event was originally a setup involving a different female character. As she stares at the malicious trio, a sharp, "Hey!" rings out to pull her focus back to them. The purple-haired girl confronts her with crossed arms, warning Ibis not to become arrogant because of the prince's attention. Ibis recognizes them as followers of Princess Crane, the neighboring royalty who was supposed to be Heron's fiancé. She recalls the game script where the blood prank was meant to make Heron protect Crane in front of others. The girls grow angry that Ibis isn't listening, while she frantically wonders why Princess Crane herself isn't here. Ibis asks about Crane, only for the girls to respond with confusion, stating that the princess is already dead. Her eyes widen in pure terror as the realization hits that a major plot character has been permanently removed. The green-haired girl scolds her for bringing up the deceased and warns her to stop flirting with the prince. Ibis looks distressed, wondering why she is considered dead and if her academy enrollment caused this shift. A trio of hostile noble girls confront others, their leader with purple hair looking particularly annoyed. Red blood spatters against the wall as Ibis wonders if she is truly replacing the missing Princess Crane. Ibis watches the brown-haired Crane from behind, realizing she hasn't completely taken over the other girl's narrative role. Her eyes widen in realization as she frantically anticipates the next dangerous event in the story's script. A loud thump echoes as Ibis is suddenly pushed, tumbling down the long stone stairs of the academy. She shuts her eyes tight, bracing for a painful impact while gasping in shock during the terrifying fall. Far off in the quiet hallway, the black-haired Saintess Hibari walks away, seemingly indifferent to the unfolding chaos. Ibis wonders if an unfamiliar person has replaced Crane, sensing a shift in the predetermined roles of the world. Hibari watches with a cold side profile, noting the world is reacting to her interference in the original game. With a dark, murderous expression, the black-haired Saintess resolves to eliminate anyone who dares to block her path. A vision of young, white-haired Egglet appears, sitting alone in a sunlit room within her isolated ivory tower. A young boy peeks through the door, his curious eyes fixed on the lonely princess hidden away from society. While Ibis falls, the noble girls watch from above, their silhouettes dark against the stone staircase. Panic takes hold as she screams that she is falling, her hair flying wildly during the rapid descent. A boy with light brown hair and a blue uniform reaches out desperately to catch her before she hits. Ibis gasps as the boy catches her midair, her heart racing from the sudden and unexpected rescue. The two land on the hard floor together, the boy absorbing the impact while Ibis lies atop him. Horror washes over her as she realizes she landed on someone, frantically apologizing for the clumsy collision. Her face flushes as the boy begins to sit up, his presence and intense gaze catching her completely off guard. He sits on the stone floor with a stoic expression, rubbing his head after the rough landing. Ibis recognizes him as Shrike, a popular student, and wonders why someone of his status is in such a place. She offers a hand and checks if he is okay, to which the boy simply offers a blunt agreement. Close-up on the boy's sharp green eyes as he studies her face with an unnerving and focused intensity. Shrike notes to himself that this pink-haired girl bears a haunting resemblance to the lost Princess Egglet. Memories of the magicless Egglet return, highlighting her life of both protection and imprisonment within the ivory tower. Guilt plagues the boy as he reflects on his past failure to protect the princess who was once so dear. The noble girls hide and watch from the shadows as Shrike and Ibis continue their conversation on the stairs. He explains of the noble daughters, while Ibis resolves to maintain peace despite the obvious bullying. Skeptical of her excuses, Shrike questions why she is lying about being bumped into when he saw the push. Ibis smiles nervously, finding that his blunt and cold tone reminds her of Raven's own direct personality. Revealed as Shrike Ensley, cousin to Heron, Ensley, cousin to Heron, he is described as a tragic character with hidden, powerful magic. A dark flashback shows a man being stabbed, marking the moment Shrike eventually inherits the royal throne. Shrike asks if the noble girls were responsible for the snake blood on her clothes earlier that day. He grows suspicious, knowing the item was cursed and could never have been handled by simple accident. Ibis laughs off the concern, claiming the Saintess helped her and that there is nothing to worry about. Shrike stares at her, comparing her naive innocence to the pure-hearted princess who was eventually kidnapped. He wonders if this girl's innocence will lead her to the same tragic fate as Lady Egglet. Ibis considers the game's mechanics, noting how the Saintess usually gains affection through specific club activities. She speculates on her brother's current activities, hoping other love interests will join the same school club soon. Shrike recalls that in his original route, he and the Saintess were supposed to start a club together. Breaking the narrative, Shrike suddenly commands Ibis to join the same academy club as him. Surprised, she listens as he claims he needs help with errands to repay him for catching her fall. Shrike thinks about having a second chance to protect or teach this girl who so closely resembles Egglet. He formally introduces himself as Shrike Ensley, a fellow first-year student within the Academy's magic department. Blushing, she introduces herself as Ibis White from the General Studies Department, completely bewildered by the situation. Panic flashes in her eyes as she fears this unexpected interaction is a narrative filler event gone wrong. She decides to join him, seeing it as a chance to avoid Heron and help Shrike meet the Saintess. Ibis agrees to his request, relieved that simple errands shouldn't require her to reveal her lack of magic. Shrike instructs her to meet him at Magic Department Lab 13 after school to begin their new arrangement. Ibis stares at a stone archway, wondering if Lab 13 is the same mysterious location mentioned in the game. The light brown-haired Shrike looks away stoically as he clarifies that the club is focused on magic development. Under a flickering lantern, Ibis stands nervously in a quiet hallway, hoping she has finally found the right place. A sudden, "Gotcha!" sound echoes as she cautiously peeks through a heavy door, asking if she has arrived. Startled, a brown-haired boy named Quail clutches a book to his chest, demanding to know who she is. A bead of sweat rolls down Ibis's face as she realizes she has accidentally triggered another love interest event. Shrike explains his reasoning with a blunt tone, insisting that she join the club to repay his earlier rescue. Ibis stares forward in shock, processing the fact that Shrike was the one who personally sent her here. Quail panics and clutches his head, terrified that someone found his laboratory that was supposed to be magically hidden. A stylized portrait describes Quail as a powerful and skilled magician whose pride is as immense as his talent. Ibis offers a timid explanation, stating that Lord Ensley was the one who instructed her to join the club. Quail's expression shifts to pure outrage as he shouts the name Ensley in a moment of sharp realization. He fumes with visible annoyance, cursing Shrike for recruiting a complete stranger into their top-secret and private facility. Ibis watches him, realizing that she has stumbled into the middle of what is actually Quail's secret magic club. Narration explains that in Quail's original route, he works entirely alone until the Saintess eventually joins his magical research. She ponders the script, confused because Shrike's presence in this club was never a part of the original game. Facing the skeptical brown-haired boy, Ibis maintains her composure as he reluctantly accepts her presence for the moment. Quail looms over her with a menacing shadow, coldly commanding her to forget everything she has seen in here. Ibis gasps as he suddenly brandishes a wand, threatening to erase her memories right there on the spot. He warns that stay still, it won't hurt, though she might lose every memory since before her academy enrollment. Closing his eyes dismissively, Quail remarks that memory magic is imprecise, especially for someone with her specific hair color. Ibis interrupts him by pointing at his book, demanding to see the spell formula to prove it is possible. She leans in close to the shocked boy, her face inches from his as she studies the magical text. Staring at the pages, she considers if the stronger magic of this world has allowed their research to progress further. A vision of the white-haired Egglet appears, recalling her time studying magic within the Demon King's vast castle library. She remembers that knowledge is power, and that the ancient library was crucial in her serious pursuit of magic. In her memory, the black-haired raven watches her with a soft, affectionate gaze as she focuses on her studies. The recollection turns intimate as Raven kisses her, a memory that now serves as an embarrassing and distracting thought. Back in the present, Ibis blushes crimson while trying to focus, annoyed by the sudden intrusion of past distractions. Quail watches her suspiciously, wondering if she is being cocky and trying to charm Shrike just like Prince Heron. Ibis offers professional advice, suggesting that adding a duration parameter would make the release of the magical formula lighter. Quail's eyes go wide in total disbelief, reeling from the girl's unexpected and deep understanding of high-level magic. Staring at her with a questioning gaze, he repeats her hair color, his suspicion turning into genuine, stunned curiosity. A bead of sweat forms as he wonders how a girl with pinkish-red hair could possibly know so much. A flashback shows a young Quail asking his father why the same name appears on every legendary spell record. His father's hand points to an open book, explaining that all these powerful spells were created by her. A portrait of the former queen is revealed, a gifted magician possessing the same beautiful pinkish-red hair as Ibis. The young Quail smiles with pure admiration, exclaiming that he wants to be just like the amazing queen someday. Ibis looks at him with a confused, as Quail stares at her in a stunned and silent trance. She wonders if her current appearance actually resembles Egglet's mother more than it resembles Egglet herself or Ibis. Shrike steps into the room and notes her arrival, admitting he thought she might have run away in fear. Ibis points toward Quail and explains that while she came, the boy seems to not want her here. Quail responds with a simple, "Fine," his eyes narrowing as he reevaluates the mysterious girl standing before him. Ibis is left bewildered, her heart racing as she realizes he was just about to wipe her entire memory. Shrike reaches out and grabs her arm, telling her to come over here while a blue spark of energy appears. His green eyes are filled with concern as he asks her directly if Quail did anything to her earlier. Ibis stammers out a nervous no, looking completely overwhelmed by the intense gazes of the two noble magic students. Quail analyzes her age and hair color, concluding she cannot be the queen's daughter or Egglet's magical twin. He touches his face thoughtfully, wondering if she is a reincarnation or perhaps some kind of magical substitute for royalty. With a creepy, blushing smile, Quail vows to examine every inch of her, from head to toe, very thoroughly. The brown-haired Quail questions if the recent harassment is due to the prince's attention. Shrike crosses his arms, grimly noting that the behavior has escalated from petty to truly malicious. While Ibis works on the bookshelves behind them, Quail continues his discussion with the blonde boy. Quail watches Ibis reach for a book, secretly noting that Shrike remains unaware of her true potential. He recalls a traumatic moment where the black-haired girl was targeted with the blood of a venomous snake. Shrike agrees, stating that jealousy is inevitable whenever a prince shows interest in a regular student. Quail emphasizes that magical power dictates social status, doubting Ibis possesses any due to her hair color. A portrait shows the former Queen Ibis, a researcher with pinkish hair identical to the girl's. Shrike stares thoughtfully, remembering that the first consort was the birth mother of Princess Egglet. Quail declares himself the foremost expert on Lady Ibis, having studied her legacy in extreme detail. The black-haired saintess appears in a radiant vision, hailed as a divine being from another world. In his memory, the saintess encourages Shrike, claiming he is more fit for the crown than Heron. Shrike reflects on his desire to prove himself worthy of her trust after failing to protect Egglet. Watching Ibis, Shrike is overwhelmed by painful memories of the lost princess she so closely resembles. Quail looks on suspiciously, resolving to keep a close eye on Shrike's intentions as well. The Saintess offers her magic freely with a gentle smile, appearing as a beacon of pure kindness. Quail blushes while imagining how powerful his research would become if he could combine his magic with hers. A sudden, sharp "ah" escapes Ibis as she accidentally disrupts a delicate piece of magical equipment. She turns around with a startled expression, clutching her chest while wondering what to do next. In a comedic clash, Quail recoils in horror, while Shrike tries to restrain a frantic and distressed Ibis. Fuming with annoyance, Quail laments the loss of his organized ingredients that are now scattered everywhere. Ibis shoots back a pouty look, reminding him that she was only cleaning because he ordered her to. She watches from behind a shelf as the two boys use soundproofing magic to keep their conversation private. Holding a small potion bottle, Quail arrogantly explains his research on generating sound and smoke. Ibis casually interrupts by grabbing the bottle, surprising the boy with her sudden and direct interest. Quail reacts with visible shock, offended that a regular student would dare question his high-level magical research. She ignores his ego, correctly identifying that his formula is intended for use as battlefield smoke cover. Ibis offers a professional critique, suggesting gravel obsidian as a cheaper and more effective alternative material. She recalls that Quail taught this exact magic to the Saintess in the game's original timeline. Quail looms over her, his expression darkening as he demands to know if she finds his work flawed. Beading with sweat, she nervously suggests that the only way to prove her point is to test it. Quail smirks menacingly, promising to make her his lifelong errand girl if her suggestion fails. Ibis nervously holds the glowing jar, suggesting that the impending experiment should probably be conducted outside. A massive boom echoes as thick, black smoke and orange flames erupt from the laboratory window. From the academy courtyard, a boy with vibrant red hair stops in his tracks at the loud explosion. The third-year night grouse looks toward the magic department building with a curious and focused gaze. The black-haired Saintess clings to his arm, brightly suggesting they go investigate the source of the commotion.